Chapter 574. Originally, the three from the Sun family could barely hold on, but when the two middle-aged men from the Thousand Devil sect stopped holding back, the three of them were in great danger. I should have listened to Sure too. The beautiful woman's face turned pale. If she had fallen into the hands of the Thousand Devil sect, she would have been severely humiliated before she was killed. At this moment she was terrified and regretful. These three were all disciples of the Sun family in Jinyuan City. They were all in the 7th or 8th layer of the Chi Soul realm. The woman was called Sun Lele, the honest-looking man was called Sun Shurshur, and the other was called Sun Yangon. When the three of them came out to train and passed by a place where the Thousand Devil sect's disciples might be hiding, Sun Shurshur was very worried. Lele, let's be careful and take a detour. Otherwise, we'll be in danger if the demons of the Thousand Devil sect target us. You idiot, Sun Yangon, the other companion, said angrily. Take a detour? Are you kidding? We're here to train, so why should we be afraid of the Thousand Devil sect? Sure too, Yangon is right. We're here to train, so we can't be afraid of anything. Also, the detour is too far. Sun Lele was not afraid of the Thousand Devil sect, and did not want to take a detour. Unfortunately, they only knew how powerful the Thousand Devil sect was now. Pooh! Sun Lele's true essence transformed into ribbons and blocked the flying swords, but the impact still made her spit out a mouthful of blood. Lele! Sun Zishur was extremely anxious. He fiercely gritted his teeth, and his face suddenly flushed red. Then, his aura suddenly skyrocketed. With a rumble, true essence surged out, condensing into 9 large black stones that whistled towards the two middle-aged men. Hurry up and leave, all of you! Sun Tzu Shur angrily roared again and again. It was as if one man could hold back 10,000 men. He suddenly rushed forward and blocked Sun Lele and Sun Yangon behind him. Sure too! Sun Lele's expression changed. She could see that Sun Shurshur had used a forbidden technique. This was almost destroying his martial arts foundation. Even if he did not die, his future achievements would be limited. Go! Sun Shurshur was crazy. Why aren't you leaving? Sun Yangon did not hesitate. He turned into a cloud of smoke and immediately fled. Sun Lele gritted her teeth and followed him. When the two middle-aged men saw this, they only sneered. It was truly delusional to think that they could escape so easily. However, when they were about to move, whoosh, whoosh, 2 flying daggers appeared out of thin air. They were as fast as lightning. They directly pierced through the middle of the two middle-aged men's eyebrows and pierced through their heads. How is this possible? How? The two middle-aged men's eyes were wide open before they died. The shock in their eyes froze, and they were filled with disbelief. Everyone in the Thousand Demons sect wanted to beat them up. They were extremely careful in their actions, and every time they fought, they would be extremely careful and vigilant of their surroundings. However, just now, they had sensed the slightest fluctuation of true essence. These 2 flying daggers were even stranger. Previously, they had not been able to see them at all. By the time they noticed them, it was already too late. Blood splattered everywhere, mixed with a hint of white. Bang bang! The 2 middle-aged men fell stiffly to the ground, no longer breathing. Kill, kill, kill! The simple and honest man's grandson seemed to have gone mad. He was still trying his best to control the 9 black stones, but he suddenly froze and looked at everything in front of him in astonishment. Why were the 2 devils of the Thousand Devil sect lying on the ground? They're dead. How did they die? This. Sun Zi was in disbelief. Sun Yangon, who was running away in a hurry, glanced behind him. Although he had already escaped far away, with his vision, he could still clearly see the situation there. The 2 devils of the Thousand Devil sect had fallen to the ground, dead. There was still blood flowing on the ground. Lele, Sun Yangon said. There's no need to run. The 2 bastards of the Thousand Devil sect are already dead. Sun Lele could not help but stop. He turned his head and was also stunned. There was only a lonely and simple figure left at the place where the battle had been. "Let's go and take a look." Sun Lele followed cautiously. They quickly flew back to the place where the battle had been. They could not help but look at Sun Zi, who was standing there in a daze, with a puzzled expression. Sun Yangon directly asked, "Stone, what's going on? Are you guys okay?" Suddenly, the three of them seemed to hear a small beast asking if they were okay. They could not help but be shocked. Chapter 575. It was this little beast that spoke to them just now. Whoosh! The young man waved his hand, and 2 rays of light shot out. Then, he skillfully took the storage rings of the 2 people from the 1,000 Devil sect. "Thank you for saving our lives, Senior." The honest Sun Tzu Shi knelt down heavily with a bang and kowtowed repeatedly to express his gratitude. "Don't think too much. I'm just here to rob. If you want to kowtow, I won't stop you." Chu Yang couldn't help but look at this simple and honest man. He had a very good impression of this simple and honest guy. At the critical moment of life and death, he was willing to stand up and face death by himself while his companions ran for their lives. At least, Chu Yang couldn't hate such a person. However, there was nothing he could do about the illness left behind by the man's forbidden technique. This is a righteous person. What a pity. Chu Yang regretted watching from the side for so long. Xiao Guai had already urged him. However, he didn't expect the honest man to have such a trick up his sleeve. "Thank you for saving our lives, brother." Sun Yangon also expressed his gratitude. "The 3 of us are disciples of the Sun family of Jinyuan City. This is Sun Tzu Shi, and the one beside him is Sun Lele. I'm Sun Yangon. May I know who you are?" "Sure too." Sun Lele pulled Sun Tzu Shi up from the ground. She still had lingering fears after escaping death. At the same time, she looked at Chu Yang. She was curious and respectful of the young man in front of her. Chu Yang hesitated for a while and didn't reveal his identity as a disciple of the 5 Elements sect. "My name is Chu Yang. I came out from the Coiling Dragon Town to see the world and coincidentally met the 3 of you in Jinyuan City." "What kind of place is Coiling Dragon Town? Why haven't I heard of it before?" Sun Yangon was suspicious. He secretly sized up Chu Yang and was shocked. Chu Yang's aura was extremely restrained. He couldn't see through Chu Yang's cultivation. "Brother Chu is also going to Jinyuan City?" He didn't show it and said happily, "The 3 of us are Jinyuan City's landlords. If Brother Chu doesn't mind, why don't we go together? At that time, the 3 of us can play host to you." Sun Zishir and the woman, Sun Lele, were also looking forward to it. Since he was unfamiliar with the place, it was good to have someone who was familiar with the situation. Chu Yang thought for a moment and agreed. Okay. Among the 3 of them, Sun Yangon wanted to curry favor with Chu Yang and was extremely enthusiastic. Among the 3, Sun Yangon was also the most talkative and adept at flattery. It was just that his flattery was too obvious, which made Chu Yang somewhat displeased. Sun Lele's appearance was not bad, and he was worthy of the word eye candy. Although Sun Zishir was not good with words, he was the only one among the 3 that Chu Yang was willing to make friends with. The 3 of them chatted and laughed as they traveled. When they talked about how Sun Zishir had used a taboo technique and destroyed his foundation, Sun Lele couldn't stop weeping. Sun Zi didn't seem to care at all. "It's fine. It's good enough that you're still alive. It's just a single use of a forbidden technique. That's nothing." "Damned 1,000 demon sect," Sun Yangon said through gritted teeth. "When I step into the ascending soul tier, I'll definitely teach them a lesson." "Don't talk nonsense." Sun Zishir glanced at him. Sun Yangon immediately looked up and sighed. "Our Sun family is really too weak. Otherwise, how could it be like this?" The 2 demons didn't have any scruples at all. As he spoke, he suddenly looked at Chu Yang eagerly. "Brother Chu Yang, your strength is amazing. Killing those 2 demons of the 1,000 Demon sect was like killing chickens. I'm sure Brother Chu has a lot of extraordinary cultivation techniques, some of which are nothing at all. Brother Chu, why don't you give us 1 or 2 cultivation techniques to increase our strength so that we won't be a burden to you? Just 1 or 2, I don't ask for much. Sun Yangon stared at Chu Yang with anticipation in his eyes. Chu Yang frowned slightly and thought to himself, am I that close to you? 1 or 2 cultivation techniques. Sun Yong'an's flattery made Chu Yang feel inferior. He was shameless, but now he also admitted defeat. You see, I seem to have a lot of cultivation technique. Chu Yang spread out his hands and smiled bitterly. Brother Sun, don't misunderstand. I just came from a small place, not some rich family. Sun Yangon smiled embarrassedly, but he was already cursing in his heart. You're really stingy. Last time, I flattered the young Marquis of the Rongua Marquis Mansion, and he casually gave me a true origin skill. I flattered this Chu Yang for so long, but there was no benefit at all. Seeing how powerful he is and that he even has a spirit beast, I thought he was amazing. It seems that he's just SOSO. He cursed in his heart for a while, but he still couldn't take it. In his heart, he belittled Chu Yang again. This Chu Yang, it seems that he's just a country bumpkin from some corner of the world. Chu Yang was too lazy to pay attention to Sun Yangon. Brother Chu. Sun Zisher felt Chu Yang's displeasure, but he didn't dare to say anything. He only pointed ahead and said, Brother Chu, look, that's Jinyuan City. Jinyuan City. Chu Yang looked over, and saw a huge city on the endless land in front of him. It seemed as if a sun had risen from the horizon. He could faintly feel the oppressive feeling coming from that huge city even though he was dozens of miles away from it at this moment. Jinyuan City is so extraordinary. Chu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up with joy. It shouldn't be hard to find a light and darkness attribute treasure in such a city. Chapter 576. The distant Jinyuan City was like a towering giant. It also seemed like an ancient city that had existed since ancient times. The closer he got to the city, the more he could feel it. When he was only a few dozen li away from the city, Chu Yang could clearly feel the surging heaven and earth yuan qi gathering in the city, forming a huge pressure and deterrent force. The pressure that Chu Yang felt earlier was because of this. The entire Jinyuan City is a grade array. It should be at least a grade 5 array. Chu Yang thought to himself. Brother Chu, you have to be careful. Flying in the sky above Jinyuan City is absolutely forbidden. If you dare to fly over Jinyuan City, you have to be careful. Sun Yangon pretended to be kind and reminded Chu Yang. However, there was a mischievous look on his face. He really thought that Chu Yang was a country bumpkin. Ever since Sun Yangon failed to ask Chu Yang for the cultivation technique, not only did he lose his enthusiasm, but his tone also became weird. He kept insinuating Chu Yang. Chu Yang pretended that he didn't hear him and increased his speed. Soon, the city gate of Jinyuan City appeared in front of Chu Yang. It was like the mouth of a giant beast. This was the east gate of Jinyuan City. It was 100 zhang wide and 50 zhang tall. One could imagine how majestic the walls of Jinyuan City were. Soon, the 3 Sun brothers and Chu Yang entered Jinyuan City. After returning to Jinyuan City, Sun Lele was like a fish back in water. He introduced everything about Jinyuan City to Chu Yang. Jinyuan City is 1,321 li long and 910 li wide. It is divided into the East, South, North, and West City. There are 2 Marquis mansions, the Marquis of Rong Nation and the Marquis of Rich Nation. There are also 9 great clans. Chu Yang listened carefully. The Marquis of Rong Nation and the Marquis of Rich Nation were located in the North and South City respectively. They were the 2 giants of Jinyuan City. They were also the supreme existences. These 2 areas were also the safest places in Jinyuan City. Many rogue cultivators gathered there, and there were even some old fellows living in seclusion there, living a peaceful life. At the same time, these two places were also places that some big merchants liked to live in. Not only was it safe, but it was also a symbol of status that was close to the two marquises' manors. Those who couldn't live in these two places were considered inferior. Wealthy Marquis Mansion. As Chu Yang listened to Sun Leilei's chatter, he had a general understanding of the rich country Marquis Mansion. The rich country Marquis Mansion was terrifyingly powerful. Looks like Fan Jinduoduo's identity is extraordinary. Chu Yang could not help but laugh in his heart. When he was in the Five Elements sect, he did not notice it. Brother Chu, don't think that the northern and southern districts are the most intimidating. In fact, the western district of Jinyuan City is the most bustling and prosperous district, especially the Treasure Exchange Square in the western district. Why don't we go and take a look? Sun Yangon became enthusiastic again, but his expression was a little cynical. It seemed like he wanted to bring Chu Yang, this country bumpkin, to see the world and broaden his horizons. That's right. There are thousands of martial artists setting up stalls in the Treasure Exchange Square. Sun Leilei immediately introduced the Treasure Exchange Square again. The Treasure Exchange Square was a place specially for martial artists to exchange their treasures. Chu Yang frowned. He could not tolerate Sun Yong'an's behavior. However, after glancing at Sun Yangon, he did not flare up. Although Jinyuan City was very big, the four of them moved very quickly. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a huge square appeared in front of them. The square was densely packed with stalls set up by martial artists. Beside the stalls, there were signs stating the treasures that the stall owners wanted to exchange for. So many! Chu Yang was slightly shocked and exclaimed in surprise. With a glance, he could not see the end of the crowd at all. There were all kinds of treasures in the Treasure Exchange Square. There were even some strange treasures. The advantage of trading here was that it was relatively cheaper. The disadvantage was that it was not safe enough. Because it was in the western part of the city, and the Treasure Exchange Square did not forbid killing, it was entirely possible for people to kill others and steal their treasures. Of course, it was also relatively rare. Normally, those who dared to take out precious treasures were those who were strong enough to intimidate others. Although the Treasure Exchange Square does not forbid killing, it is impossible to judge a person's strength from their appearance. Even if someone took out some precious treasures, who knows how strong that person is? Maybe he is just a Soul Wheel Realm martial artist who is playing around. Sun Leilei said. Chu Yang nodded. Little N. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Sun Yangon turned his head and was immediately overjoyed. Third uncle. A one-eyed middle-aged man was walking towards them with a smile on his face. Sun Leilei and Sun Shishir turned their heads and immediately recognized the person. They were very happy. Third uncle. Haha, the three of you have been training outside for so long. You are finally willing to come back. The one-eyed middle-aged man had already noticed Chu Yang. He smiled and said, Who is this? Sun Yangon glanced at Chu Yang and immediately curled his lips, but he did not say anything. In the beginning, he was still flattering Chu Yang. However, after interacting with him, he was very sure that Chu Yang did not have any background. Especially after returning to Jinyuan City, he did not take Chu Yang seriously at all. Chapter 577. Third uncle, this is Chu Yang. Sun Leilei said in a crisp voice, The three of us owe him our lives. The one-eyed middle-aged man was surprised and shocked. He immediately said, Little brother, you are really grateful. Why don't you come with us? I can also entertain you to thank you for your help this time. No need. Chu Yang shook his head. Sun Leilei and Sun Zishir looked at Chu Yang and wanted to persuade him. Let's say goodbye here. Chu Yang really didn't like Sun Yangon. He might explode later. Although he also wanted to walk around the Treasure Exchange Square, He didn't want to be with Sun Yangon. He clasped his fist and said goodbye. This gathering is fate. We will meet again in the future. Okay. Sun Zisher nodded. Sun Yong'an's mouth curled up. He only smiled at Chu Yang but didn't say much. His smile was obviously perfunctory. Chu Yang didn't care. He left directly and soon arrived at the rich country marquee mansion. What a mansion! What a gorgeous mansion! What a domineering mansion! Chu Yang looked at the mansion in the distance and felt that the mansion was very unique. It was a huge gold ingot, but the whole body was silver. When he looked closer, he felt that the whole mansion was made of silver. The details of the building were definitely not exquisite. The entire building was rough and huge, vividly displaying the grandeur, heroism, and nouveau riche. The two stone lions in front of the door were vivid and lifelike, looking disdainfully at the surroundings with a hint of mockery. There were rows of armored soldiers in front of the door. They were very serious. Their aura was dense and evil. They were like killing gods. Obviously, they were an iron-blooded army. With an iron-blooded army as guards, Chu Yang could only say that it was domineering. With such an army present, the pedestrians on the surrounding streets unconsciously distanced themselves from this mansion and didn't dare to approach it. This made Chu Yang appear extremely lonely and conspicuous. "Who are you?" One of the guards at the entrance of the marquee mansion immediately shouted. Chu Yang understood that once someone came within 10 zhang of the mansion, the marquee mansion would be able to kill them directly. "This majestic general, I am Chu Yang. I am here to see Second Fatty Jean. Please go in and report." Chu Yang cupped his fist. His tone was originally very polite, but the 3 words, Fatty Jean, erased everything, making him seem frivolous and arrogant. However, Jean Duoduo emphasized that he had to be called Fatty Jean. What? When the surrounding soldiers heard Chu Yang's name, they were all shocked. They all took a step back and stared at Chu Yang with all their might. It was as if they wanted to see who he was, and also as if they wanted to imprint him in their minds, afraid that they would forget him. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and kneel." The leader of the armored soldiers roared in a panic. Then, his armor clanged incessantly. Then, the 2 rows of armored soldiers uniformly knelt down in front of Chu Yang. "Greetings to the heaven-gifted martial prodigy Chu Yang. Greetings to the invincible, omnipotent, extraordinarily handsome, extraordinarily magical, and boundless magical power Chu Yang." The nearby pedestrians saw this scene and were all shocked. They couldn't help but stop and stare at Chu Yang with their eyes wide open. Chu Yang's expression slightly froze. He was already so famous and powerful, how could he not know? "Heroes, please rise, rise. I'm a coward, don't scare me." The soldiers immediately looked at Chu Yang in unison. It seemed that the rumors were true. This Chu Yang seemed to be a master who would not even pay for his own life. No wonder the second young master had specifically warned them to be extremely careful when they saw this swindler. At this time, an armored soldier rushed into the mansion in a hurry to make a report. Ha ha ha! Not long after, a hearty laugh immediately sounded. With a xiao sound, Chu Yang felt as if a huge boulder was rolling down from the top of a mountain, crushing down on him. Big, round, fat. It was definitely a huge meatball. Second Fatty Jean was so fat that it surpassed the sky. He was even fatter than Jean Duoduo. He was wearing gold and silver, just like a golden ball. Chapter 578. Chu Yang was speechless. How could he change his attitude so quickly? "Evildoer, I gave you face and asked you to show your true form, but you actually dared to hesitate. Eat my fist." Boom! Second Fatty Jean leaped up from the ground like a ball. He jumped down from the sky and fiercely threw a punch at Chu Yang. The fat on his body was like a mountain range, gathering in one place. It was as if the fat on his body was pulled out from his body and he suddenly became like Jean Duoduo, a burly man. His fist turned into a meatball and smashed down like a huge rock. This was a test of his true form. Boom! Chu Yang's body also exploded with a powerful aura. He threw a punch and the air above his arm formed the image of an undulating mountain range. Boom! The two collided like two mountains crashing into each other. A deafening sound like the mountains collapsing and the earth cracking could be heard. A strong wind blew and a dazzling light completely covered the area. Haha, it is indeed the great evildoer Chu, the great Chu. Amidst the loud laughter, a burly man was sent flying from the light with a punch. He landed on the ground and staggered back more than 10 meters before he could stop himself. When the light dissipated and the soldiers saw the scene in front of them, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Chu Yang did not move at all. The ground where he stood was not damaged at all. It must be known that in front of such a huge force, the ground was like a piece of tofu. However, in the face of such a huge force, the tofu was completely unharmed. On the other hand, every step second Fatty Jean took back created a huge hole in the ground. It was as if a spider web had been torn open. Such amazing control! It would be fine if he did not move at all after such a collision, but the ground under his feet is completely undamaged. The soldiers were extremely shocked. This kind of strength was too shocking. As for second Fatty Jin's strength, they naturally knew that there were very few people in Jinyuan City who could compare to him. However, this Chu Yang in front of them was even more ridiculous. This kneel is really not undeserved. If I accidentally offended such a person, I reckon I'll have to bear the consequences. Ha ha! Second Fatty Jean returned to his meatball form. Clearly, he liked this form. Great evildoer Chu, I'm evil enough, right? Second Fatty Jean was extremely proud of himself. He was naturally sure that it was Chu Yang without a doubt. Not many people knew the 100,000 mountain of flesh technique. Chu Yang smiled and then commented, "When you were young, you must have been cheated and had a shadow in your heart. May I ask how big the shadow is?" Bullshit. Bullshit. You're the one who's been tricked into having a shadow in your heart. Second Fatty Jean bounced up like a ball. Monster Chu, I'm warning you. If you slander me again, I'll cancel tonight's Happy Pavilion event. Cancel it immediately. Don't even think about having 1,000 times tonight. My apologies. Chu Yang laughed. Recently, I don't like beauties but treasures. Where can I find glowing treasures or pitch-black treasures? Bah! Second Fatty Jean said angrily. If you don't want a beauty, then I'll give you one. He turned his head and ordered, "Men, go to the Happy Pavilion." An extremely luxurious carriage rushed over and stopped in front of the mansion. A group of orioles and swallows immediately appeared, each more beautiful than a flower. Without any explanation, Chu Yang was pulled into the carriage and left with a rumbling sound. Chapter 579. Are you usually so immoral? Chu Yang felt indignant. He didn't have anyone by his side. Second Fatty Jean grinned and said, "You're envious. That's exactly what I want." Along the way, Second Fatty Jean and Chu Yang became more familiar with each other. Their conversation was originally very casual, but now it was even more casual. As for the Merry House, it was the best place to enjoy in Jinyuan City. It was also located in the west side of the city. The Merry House covered an area of 100 miles. It was a mountain in the city. The entire mountain was hollow, and there were countless treasures inside. They sold spirit beasts, slaves, and all kinds of gambling battles. In short, the Merry House had everything you could think of. Not only was it a gentle place, but it was also a place to squander money. Behind the Merry House was the Wei Kingdom's imperial family. There was a Merry House in every county's capital, and it made a lot of money for the Wei Kingdom. Of course, Jinyuan City's Merry House was also a supporter of the Marquis household. To be more precise, the Merry House was built by Second Fatty Jin's ancestors. However, it was now taken over by the Wei Kingdom's royal family. Young master, we're here. A voice came from outside, and the carriage stopped quickly. The 13 beauties in the carriage didn't get off. Instead, the carriage rumbled away. Second Fatty Jean and Chu Yang got off the carriage. They were very proud. They pointed at the incomparably huge building in front of them and said, "Monster Chu, this is the merry house." Chu Yang swept a glance at this place, and his pupils involuntarily shrank. He immediately sensed the Great Formation here. The Great Formation here was actually connected to the Great Formation of the entire Jinyuan city. Because of the existence of this Great Formation, the heaven and earth energy in this place was incomparably rich. "Young Marquis, please, please." Instantly, a tall and sturdy man ran over. His surging aura shocked Chu Yang. Although the man in front of him was restraining his aura, Chu Yang could instantly confirm that he was in the 9th layer of the Ascending Soul Realm. A 9th layer Ascending Soul Realm cultivator as a receptionist. Second Fatty Jean nodded casually. "This is..." The man looked at Chu Yang. "This is my good friend Chu Yang. If you see him in the future, you better be more polite." "Don't say I didn't warn you," Second Fatty Jean said directly. The big man hurriedly nodded and smiled. "Young Master Chu Yang, please forgive me in the future." He was extremely polite. Then, he led the way in front. Chu Yang swept his gaze around and discovered that there were many people enjoying themselves in the merry house. However, most of them were not welcomed by attendants. Even if there were occasionally attendants, their cultivation bases were at most in the Chi Soul realm. Only Second Fatty Jean had a 9th level Ascending Soul Realm warrior come out to greet him. Chu Yang followed Second Fatty Jean inside. Walking along the wide and beautiful corridor, it didn't take long for them to enter a magnificent hall. On the left side of the hall stood a row of beautiful women, either humans or demons, while on the right side stood attendants. "Welcome, young Marquis, young Master Chu." All of them bowed respectfully, their sleeves drooping to the ground. "Wow, it's not the slightest bit inferior to the women in my previous life," Chu Yang exclaimed. There were already many guests sitting in the hall. Among them, there were 4 people that Chu Yang was familiar with. Sun Yangon, Sun Zisher, and Sun Lele were also brought to the merry house by their uncle. "The 3 of you went out to train and survive. Today, I'm bringing you to the merry house to relax." Sun Lele's face was already red. The one-eyed man naturally saw it. "Lele, don't think that this is just a place to enjoy yourself. Today, I've paid a great price to bring you here. My goal is to let you see and make friends with some important people." "Third uncle, don't worry." Sun Yangon was the most excited and also the most adapted. He was already prepared to curry favor with some important people. In addition, there was no need to mention the delicious food. There were also some beautiful demons dancing in the hall. There were even heavenly beauties playing the zither. Where else could they find such a place? Chapter 580. At the entrance of the hall, there was a row of beauties and the same number of attendants. They were neatly divided into 2 rows, waiting for something. "An important person has arrived," the one-eyed middle-aged man said. "I'm afraid this person's identity is extraordinary," Sun Zisher echoed. "He must be extremely powerful. It's too grand," Sun Lele exclaimed. When they came in, no one came to welcome them. They were even afraid that they were here to cause trouble, so they were strictly checked. "Wow, what kind of important person are we going to welcome?" Sun Yong'an's eyes lit up. If he could curry favor with such an important person, wouldn't he soar to the sky? Suddenly, "Welcome, young Marquis, young Master Ji." A voice echoed in the hall. "Young Marquis?" The one-eyed middle-aged man's third uncle whispered. "This young Marquis is either the young Marquis of Rong Nation or the young Marquis of Fu Nation. There's nothing to be suspicious about. But who is this young Master Chu? I have to take a good look at this young Master Chu." Sun Yangon opened his eyes wide and looked carefully. Many people in the hall were looking at the entrance of the corridor in the distance. They saw a young man who was as fat as a meatball walk in. Beside him was a slender young man with a small beast standing on his shoulder. Chu Yang, Sun Yangon, Sun Lele, and Sun Zisher were all shocked. Wasn't the so-called young Master Chu the same Chu Yang who had saved them before? Wasn't the little beast on his shoulder the same one who had asked them if they were injured? For a moment, Sun Yangon and the others felt extremely complicated. Young Master Chu Yang is actually so powerful, Sun Lele whispered to herself, almost sleep-talking. To be honest, she was grateful to Chu Yang before, but she didn't pay much attention to him. It's not surprising. Sun Zisher was the most indifferent, but he was also very shocked. Chu Yang was too low-key. Sun Yong'an's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Previously, when they had traveled together with Chu Yang to Jinyuan City, Sun Yangon had come to the conclusion that Chu Yang was just SOSO. That was why he had stopped flattering Chu Yang. He didn't even bother to put on a disguise. Naturally, he understood that Chu Yang must have seen the disdain he showed. He must be very disgusted with him. Previously, when Chu Yang hated him, he didn't care. But now, not to mention regret, he had missed the opportunity to befriend such a noble person like Chu Yang. It would be difficult for him to restore his relationship with Chu Yang. If Chu Yang wanted to make things difficult for him, he would probably beg for death. A dignified young master, who can be on par with the young marquis of the wealthy country, actually lied and said that he was a country bumpkin. He even pretended to be so good. Are you very proud of yourself? Sun Yong'an's heart was filled with hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, I'll let you be arrogant for now. If I meet a noble, I'll definitely teach you a lesson. Suddenly, he was frightened. He remembered that he had kindly reminded Chu Yang that he couldn't fly in the sky above Jinyuan City. He also remembered that he had dragged Chu Yang to the treasure trading square to see the world. While the three of them were feeling very complicated, their third uncle, who was beside them, spoke. This is the Chu Yang that we met at the treasure trading square. He is young Master Chu? The one-eyed middle-aged man was very surprised. Then, he regretted it. He had never thought that Chu Yang would have such an identity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted so perfunctorily before. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Young Master Chu is so low-key despite his identity. Such a person is easy to get along with, but I actually missed the opportunity to befriend such a person. What a pity, what a pity! The more the one-eyed middle-aged man was surprised, the more regretful he felt. Sun Yong'an's expression became more unsightly, and his heart was filled with hatred. Chapter 581. Such a grand welcome, such enthusiasm, and such a smile, just like in his previous life. It could be seen that the merry pavilion had spent a lot of effort. Monster Chu Yang is indeed extraordinary. Second Fatty Jean led Chu Yang inside and naturally saw Chu Yang's appearance. Facing such a scene, Chu Yang was not too surprised. His expression was very casual, as if this was a common occurrence. On the other hand, the little beast on his shoulder rolled its transparent eyes. It was very curious about everything in front of it. The two quickly walked past Sun Yangon and the others. Sun Yangon and the others could not enter any further. In the blink of an eye, they had walked a few li. These few li of corridors were inlaid with huge pearls. The pearls' light illuminated the entire corridor, making it magnificent and luxurious to the extreme. Suddenly, a pink-clothed girl came from afar. She bent her slender waist and walked with light steps, revealing her white wrists under a light muslin. Her eyes were clear and bright like spring water, tender and delicate like jade, tender and beautiful like a flower. Her fingers were like chopped green onions, her mouth was like a vermilion pill. Every frown and smile moved the heart and soul. Her smile was innately charming. Step by step she walked over, swaying her butt. Chu Yang suddenly felt a fragrance assailing his nostrils, and immediately fell into a pink state. Just as it was about to become blurry, his genius martial spirit shook, and he immediately broke free. This girl's charm is very strong. If I did not have a powerful martial spirit, I would have lost my mind. Chu Yang couldn't help but carefully size up this woman again. Her purple strapless long skirt was lightly draped with purple muslin, exposing her shoulders. Inside the purple muslin, there was a brilliant purple flower on the light purple silk. Her snow-white jade-like skin was as white as a freshly peeled egg. Her long hair hung down to her waist and draped over her shoulders. Her long eyelashes were drooping, making her look a little melancholy. Her charm made her melancholy look even more pitiful. Her tall and small nose was breathing rhythmically, and her thin, bright pink lips were curled into a beautiful arc. Her body was also emitting a fragrance. This pink-clothed girl looked at Chu Yang with slight surprise, then smiled and said, "This must be young Master Chu. It seems like this is your first time here. Missy, this is the thigh that I have to hug in the future, the great monster Chu. This is the first time my boss has come to Jinyuan City. So far, no one in your merry pavilion has caught my boss's eye." Second Fatty Jean beamed. "Missy, you have to work hard. Also, my boss was not bewitched by you at all. Missy, are you going to devote yourself to him?" "Boss?" Missy was a little surprised when she heard this. Then, she smiled and said, "Young Marquis, I'm afraid that your big brother won't like me and will think that I'm a withered flower." Second Fatty Jean nodded in agreement. "That's very possible. Missy, you're at my level, so it's very possible that boss won't take a liking to you." She was stunned and rolled her eyes at Second Fatty Jean. He was just being modest. After that, she opened her mouth and said, "Young Marquis, is it the same old place?" "Of course, but the level has to be raised. Otherwise, it would seem that this lackey is not doing his best. Also, prepare 1,000 girls." When Second Fatty Jean said 1,000 girls, Miss Yi did not take it to heart. Instead, she observed and sized up Chu Yang again and again. When she realized that she could not see through Chu Yang's cultivation level, she was even more surprised and led the way in front. Chapter 582. In the center of the hall, there were dozens of dancing women. There were also dozens of musicians playing all kinds of musical instruments. "Young Marquis, young Master Chu, please." Miss Yi stopped in her tracks and pushed open the door. Inside was a serene and elegant room that was more than 200 square meters. "Miss Yi, there's good food and drink. You have to be more attentive than usual. It's best if you serve me personally." Second Fatty Jean finally revealed a knowing smile. "Young Marquis, don't worry." She immediately left. Only Chu Yang and Second Fatty Jean were left in the serene and elegant room. Second Fatty. Chu Yang lazily reclined on the soft chair and said, "Where's the glowing and pitch-black treasure?" He didn't have time to enjoy it right now. "Tch." Second Fatty Jean rolled his eyes and said with disdain, "I say, Monster Chu, do you really need me to teach you how to write it? Haste makes waste. There's food, drink, and girls. What else are you not satisfied with? Eat well and play well. The auction and gambling battles will be more interesting later." After a pause, Second Fatty Jean judged Chu Yang. "Monster Chu, your life is simply too boring. Auction and gambling battles." Chu Yang was speechless. He was indeed a bit too impatient. Second Fatty Jean naturally wouldn't bring him here for no reason. If he was too impatient, everyone would know what he was impatient for, and the price would naturally be very high. As for the auction, the money he obtained from robbing the burning sky Saint's sun and the 5 elements divine sun should be enough for him to do so. He immediately relaxed and enjoyed himself to his heart's content. Suddenly, he felt that his state of mind had changed. Leaving the 5 elements sect and arriving at Jinyuan City, everything flashed before his eyes. This was completely different from when he was in the 5 elements sect, where he was constantly facing danger and desperately cultivating. He felt as if he had suddenly returned from the city to the countryside, going from a fast pace to a slow pace. Amidst the sounds and sounds of the merry pavilion, he was completely relaxed. His heart suddenly calmed down, and all kinds of thoughts appeared in his mind. Cultivating the heart in the secular world. People said, the secular world is filled with different forms of life. One's heart becomes 10,000 hearts, and the heart reflects the secular world. Chu Yang was in a hurry to break through the 8th or 9th level of the Chi Soul stage. He was in a hurry to break through the barrier of the heavens and become a 4th level array master. He had a request. Every request was bitter. If you cling to something, that thing will hurt you. If you cling to someone, that person will hurt you. The more you ask for it, the more you can't get it. Everything felt like a dream. It was all just wishful thinking. It was better to let it go. Chu Yang's state of mind calmed down and indulged himself in plate after plate of rare delicacies and fine wine. The instant he temporarily let go of his obsession, his state of mind was like a small boat that rose and fell in the sea of bitterness, and also like a pure heart that rose and fell in the muddy world of the mortal world. The small boat was never swallowed up, and the pure heart of a child was never tainted. On the other hand, the barrier of the heavens was being attacked by impermanence, all kinds of sins, and all kinds of karma. It was also being tainted by the mortal world. If the heavens had feelings, they would grow old. If the heavens had feelings, they would no longer be the heavens. If the barrier of heaven was tainted by the mortal world, it would no longer be a barrier of heaven, but a barrier of the mortal world. It seemed that it could break through at any time, but Chu Yang did not do so. To be more precise, he seemed to have forgotten about this matter. He seemed to have truly let go of his obsession. Chu Yang suddenly sang at the top of his voice. Mistakenly entering the Wu Mountain, unable to sleep at night, finding the clouds to cover my eyes. The ancients said that the path of Shu was difficult, but they didn't know that the wood was even more difficult. The green bamboo bent with the wind, breaking continuously in the storm. When the clouds were light and the wind was light, it would be firm and leisurely again. Facing the dead water and the rotten fish beach, fortunately, there are always fish to accompany. Changing the clear and virtuous nostrils, only the moonlight can be seen in the bottom of the eyes. Drinking 3,000 cups of turbid wine, lying drunk in the East Sea, secretly sharpening the sword. Cutting down the everlasting pine trees of the South Mountain, refining the blazing flames to burn the blue sky. Chapter 583. What's wrong with him all of a sudden? Chu Yang suddenly recited a poem. It looked as if he was full of talent and had a very knowledgeable appearance. It was so high-end and high-class. Second Fatty Jean was very unhappy. When he saw Lil Guai, whose claws were covered in oil and whose belly was round like a ball, staring straight at Chu Yang, he couldn't help but feel confused. Could it be that a demon has appeared on the great monster Chu's body? Fatty too squinted his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes, which were covered by his fat, were revealed. His eyes were as big as copper bells. He also felt that the aura on Chu Yang's body had become very mysterious. No way, this is really like seeing a ghost. Lord Fatty just casually let out a smelly fart and this turtle bastard had an epiphany after smelling it. Fatty too couldn't help but curse in his heart. Lord Fatty smells my own farts all day, how come I've never had an epiphany before? What especially irritated him was that when Chu Yang was having an epiphany, he was extremely lazy and leisurely. That kind of laziness and leisure had reached the extreme, making others envious and jealous. In any case, Fatty too wanted to immediately punch Chu Yang. Exclamation point. Fatty too couldn't help but curse in his heart, he really is a monster. He's even more ridiculous and scary than Fatty too described him. It's not an epiphany. Fatty too, you don't need to keep quiet. That will make you look very tasteless. Fatty too was scared by Chu Yang's lazy words. His eyes almost fell out of their sockets as he looked at Chu Yang as if he had seen a ghost. Great monster Chu, I took it seriously. Do as you wish. Chu Yang smiled, however, you have to be careful. I also welcome it. It's rare to see a fatty like you being so careful. My Lord Fatty is sincerely doing this for your own good, but I'm being mocked. Fatty too was angry. He stood up and shouted towards the door, go call Zhou Baoshui over. Fatty too, can you speak a bit louder? Could it be that your anger is only this much? Chu Yang's leisurely appearance, the way he spoke freely and distracted without affecting anything, really made second Fatty Jean feel suffocated. Is there any justice in this world? I don't believe it. He roared again, hurry up, I'm going to flip out. Not long after, a white-clothed, white-haired old man arrived. He bowed to second Fatty Jean and said with a smile, young Marquis, what orders do you have for me? Do you know the rules? This is my boss. Second Fatty Jean pointed at Chu Yang. This is my boss. In the future, when you see the two of us, you have to greet my boss first, then me. The white-robed elder was taken aback for a moment before he said, young Marquis, I am truly sorry. This is young Master Chu's first time here and this Zhou has not been thorough enough. Saying this, the old man bowed to Chu Yang and said, this old man is the manager of the Merry Pavilion, Zhou-san. Greetings to young Master Chu. Chu Yang did not neglect and hurriedly cupped his hands in return. Old mister, you are too kind. Don't listen to this fatty's nonsense. From the beginning to the end, the mysterious aura on Chu Yang's body did not disappear. This made second Fatty Jean mutter in his heart. Is it really not the least bit useful? Is this thing even human? He was depressed, but continued to ask, Zhou Baoshui, are there any earth attribute treasures in this auction? Second Fatty Jean cultivated the 100,000 mountain flesh secret art, so he naturally needed earth attribute treasures. Replying to young Marquis, of course there are, and there are quite a few. Are there any fire and metal attribute treasures? Fire breeds earth, earth breeds metal. The two were related, so second Fatty Jean naturally needed them. Of course there are. Then, are there any light and dark attribute treasures? Saying this, second Fatty Jean looked at Chu Yang. Of course there are. The old man said, young Marquis, the Merry Pavilion's auction does not have everything, but there are many types of treasures. Young Marquis can rest assured. When it came to light and dark attribute treasures, Chu Yang's mysterious aura did not fluctuate in the slightest. Second Fatty Jean was convinced and said gloomily, I say, great monster Chu Yang, you are amazing. Chapter 584. The old man Zhou-san retreated from the private room, moving cautiously along the way. Not long after, he flashed into a hidden space. Inside, there was smoke and mist, and a fragrance assailed his nostrils. It seemed to be a woman's boudoir. There was no one inside, but a voice came out of nowhere. How is that, Chu Yang? Zhou-san respectfully knelt on the ground, not daring to raise his head. Unfathomable, I can't see how deep he is. It was hard to tell whether the voice was male or female, but it clearly revealed a trace of surprise. You have such a high opinion of him. My strength is shallow and my eyesight is limited. I shouldn't have been able to see many of Chu Yang's shocking aspects, so I've underestimated his judgment. He recalled again. Second Fatty Jean had actually joked about Chu Yang's epiphany. His heart couldn't help but fiercely jump, and he immediately recounted everything he had seen and heard. Just now, I was specially called by the young Marquis. First, it was to ask about the treasures in the auction, and second, the young Marquis wanted to use me to interfere with Chu Yang's epiphany. The latter was his main goal. Interfere with Chu Yang's epiphany. The person in the dark couldn't help but cry out in surprise. A martial practitioner's epiphany was extremely precious, and he had actually joked about it. Such an inconceivable matter was truly unheard of. Are you sure? He still couldn't believe it. Zhou San said with extreme certainty, I'm extremely sure there's nothing false about it. The young Marquis exclaimed in front of me, and said that Chu Yang wasn't human. Was that Chu Yang's epiphany disturbed? No. Zhou San's voice was thick with shock. This is also what this old servant is most shocked about. Chu Yang was in an epiphany, but he was able to talk and laugh with others without being affected in the slightest. The mysterious aura that came from his epiphany didn't have the slightest trace of fluctuation from beginning to end. It was like an unending river that would never be cut off. It was unbelievable. The person in the dark couldn't help but fall silent. After a while, he slowly said, Is there anything else? The young Marquis words seemed to only care about earth, fire, and metal-type treasures, but I found that he actually cared more about light and dark-type treasures. I understand, you may leave. Yes. The old man left on Wednesday, and shortly after, the girl who had charmed Chu Yang appeared. Beside her was a person whose face was covered. Because of the deliberate concealment, it was impossible to tell whether the person was male or female. Do you believe me now? When I tried to charm him, it was completely useless. At most, he seemed to be stunned by me. Miss Yi frowned and said, Assassinate Chu Yang. This mission cannot be accepted. Even if I can't accept it, I must accept it. The masked man coldly said, This is a mission entrusted to us by the Soul Devourer clan. Once we kill Chu Yang and expose this matter, the relationship between the Five Elements sect and the Soul Devourer clan will worsen. They might even fight to the death and start a war. This is what His Majesty hopes to see the most. This Majesty was the Emperor of the Wei nation, the King of Wei. The King of Wei had great ambitions. He wanted to first unify the other three nations, then destroy the Five Elements sect, the Soul Devourer clan, the Longhu sect, and the Seven Stars sect. Finally, he wanted to unify the entire Eastern Wilderness and achieve a hegemony like the Eastern Wilderness. Therefore, he tried his best to weaken the strength of the Five Elements sect, the Soul Devourer clan, and the other three sects, causing them to fight among themselves. In these past few years, the Soul Devourer clan had been extremely overbearing, and the relationship between the four sects had become very bad. What if the assassination fails, and we can't kill Chu Yang? Chapter 585. The Merry Pavilion wasn't just a simple money-making tool. It was also a place where King Wei collected information and monitored the four sections. It was also an assassination organization that carried out assassinations and many other missions. Chu Yang was assassinated at the Merry Pavilion, and the Merry Pavilion couldn't escape responsibility. Reputation was a small matter, but if the Merry Pavilion was suspected of being the mastermind, the matter couldn't be resolved. Once the secret of the Merry Pavilion was exposed, the Wei Kingdom and King Wei would become the public enemy of the four sections. There was such a possibility, and the masked man didn't say anything. The Soul Devourer clan wants to kill Chu Yang. Even if we don't make a move, they will definitely make a move. Miss Yi spoke again. You are just worried that if we don't make a move, we won't be able to find evidence and get hold of the Soul Devourer clan's weakness. But have you ever thought that the Soul Devourer clan didn't think of this? How could they let us succeed? I even suspect that they already know our identities. Your thoughts are exactly what they are thinking. The masked man's body couldn't help but tremble. If he assassinated Chu Yang, the Soul Devourer clan would act like a mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This would cause the Five Elements sect and the Wei Kingdom to become enemies. What would the consequences be? Third Princess, please reconsider this matter. Miss Yi suddenly became respectful and knelt down. She also revealed the masked man's identity. It was the princess of the Wei Kingdom. If Third Princess insists, please ask the Crown Prince or King Wei for instructions. After a moment of silence, the Wei Kingdom's third princess said leisurely, I want to kill Chu Yang and sow discord between the Five Elements sect and the Soul Devourer clan. What I am most worried about now is that if Chu Yang is so monstrous, the Emperor Island's inheritance might fall into his hands. Missy couldn't help but frown. The Eastern Wilderness's great emperor had a close relationship with the Five Elements sect. This was indeed very likely, and this might be the reason why the Soul Devourer clan wanted to kill Chu Yang. Let's check out this Chu Yang's background first. Previously, we didn't pay any attention to this Chu Yang, so we don't know anything about him. The Soul Devourer clan suddenly found us and asked us to accept this mission. They gave us very vague information about Chu Yang. They only said that he was a peerless freak, but they didn't say anything about how freakish he was. The third princess of the Wei Kingdom clearly agreed with this judgment and immediately said, Are you saying to let the Marquis of Rong Nation go and investigate? The Marquis of Rong Nation and the Marquis of Fu Nation were both able to earn money for the King of Wei. In the end, they were conferred the title of Marquis. However, the two of them were competitors and had a bad relationship. Their descendants had always been at odds with each other. Not bad. The third princess of Wei Kingdom nodded. That's all for now. When the Wei Kingdom's third princess was paying attention to Chu Yang was oblivious. In the elegant room, Second Fatty Jean said with a smile, I say, great freak Chu, I have a fake friend who has an incomplete cultivation technique. Can you take a look? Chu Yang smiled. He knew that this was probably because of the 100,000 mountain meat technique. He smiled. You think I have this ability? You are great freak Chu, not a human. If you don't have this ability, who does? It seemed like she was praising Chu Yang, but it was more like she was scolding him. I really admire your eyesight. Nonsense. Second Fatty Jean was extremely proud. Great freak Chu, if you don't have this ability, how can I fawn over you? Don't you know what kind of person I am? You are a pile of meat. So you agree. Which eye of yours saw that I agreed? My eyes of fat saw when you despised them. Chu Yang looked at the fat around Second Fatty Jean and said, Although what you said makes sense, please note that I have never despised a pig for being fat. So what I despise is not the fat on your body, but you. Pooh! Second Fatty Jean cursed. Great freak Chu, you are the pig. Chapter 586. Not long after, the person that Second Fatty Jean said was the richest hypocrite appeared in front of Chu Yang. He wore a white scholar's robe and held an elegant fan in his hand. His appearance was beautiful, his face was white, and his eyes were like lightning under a rock. He was 7 feet 8 inches tall, and his figure was very elegant, making people sigh in admiration. He looked solemn and straightforward. This was a handsome man. His words and actions were appropriate, and his actions were very elegant. Greetings, Brother Jean. The first thing he did was greet Second Fatty Jean in a very polite manner. This made Second Fatty Jean very unhappy. The fat on his eyes suddenly tore open as he glared at him. Lu Haoran, do you believe that I won't beat you? If you want to beat me, you should at least give me a reason. As he spoke, he also bowed to Chu Yang in a very formal manner, making Chu Yang feel very uncomfortable. I am Lu Haoran, greetings Brother Chu. I really admire you for being so formal all day. Anyways, I can't do it, although I am very envious of your upbringing. Ha ha! When Chu Yang spoke, Second Fatty Jean couldn't help but burst out laughing. Lu Haoran was very gentle and elegant. He cupped his hands and smiled. Brother Chu is the same as Brother Jean. Both of you are very straightforward and unrestrained. You really make people envious. Hypocrite, stop being so serious. Second Fatty Jean really couldn't stand Lu Haoran's extremely polite and harmonious appearance. He roared, hurry up and take out your broken hand seal. Let this inhuman person see it. Lu Hauran was already used to second Fatty Jin's behavior, so he didn't mind. He took out an incomplete book and handed it to Chu Yang with both hands. "I'll have to trouble Brother Chu." His words were clear and unhurried. This was a person that you couldn't easily find fault with. It was also very hard to dislike him. Chu Yang smiled, took the incomplete book, and flipped through it. There was a detailed description of the overturning heaven seal. It was said to come from an ancient myth. At the beginning of the world was not stable. Mountains, rivers, lakes, the sun, the moon, and the stars had not yet been born. The creatures that were born at the beginning of the world were extremely powerful. With a flip of their hands, they could turn the entire world upside down. The sky was below and the earth was above. Turbid chi poured down in torrents while clear chi rushed down from the sky. The two collided, recreating the chaos. Later generations created the overturning heaven seal according to this legend. In the incomplete version, the key to the sky-throwing seal was a celestial visualization diagram. Only celestials had the ability to turn the world upside down. However, this celestial being visualization diagram was severely damaged. Phew, Second Fatty, do you really think that I'm omnipotent? You want me to recreate the celestial being visualization diagram again? As Chu Yang spoke, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. When Chu Yang was trying to visualize a celestial being, the golden origin suddenly poured into his spiritual world. Soon after, a golden celestial being appeared. He raised his hand and flipped it over. Rumble! His entire spiritual world was turned upside down. The sky was below and the earth was above. The earth, mountains, lakes, sun, moon, and stars all poured down. Although the world existed, everything was destroyed and returned to chaos. At this moment, Chu Yang's spiritual world seemed to have been destroyed and died. He suddenly lost all of his vitality and aura. Yaya. Lil Guai was the first to notice. What's going on? Second Fatty Jean and Lu Hauran were also shocked. However, in an instant, they noticed that there was a hazy chaos between Chu Yang's eyebrows. Soon after, a ray of light seemed to appear. Chu Yang's vitality and aura immediately recovered. It was weak, but it gradually grew stronger, and then it became extremely strong. A powerful spiritual energy rushed out. In a short moment, Chu Yang only felt that he had experienced the destruction of the world and then returned to chaos. After that, the chaos gave birth to everything and he came back to life. Chapter 587. Rumble. After the sky-throwing seal, the Golden Deva demonstrated another seal technique. When the seal was completed, he raised his hand and collapsed the sky. Heaven and earth were destroyed again. This time, his spiritual power was not destroyed, but like the Golden Deva who was seriously injured by the collapse of the sky, he suddenly became weak and dispirited. The Golden Deva recovered from his injuries, and his spiritual power recovered and soared again. In the spiritual world, a big hole was opened in the sky. The Golden Deva performed another seal technique and raised his hand to mend the sky. Sky-throwing seal. Sky-throwing seal. Sky-repairing seal. This was the spiritual cultivation method of the Golden Elder's lineage, and it was also a peerless seal technique. Slaughter seal. After that, in the spiritual world, the Golden Deva slaughtered thousands of creatures. He slapped out with his big hand, and thousands of golden rays flickered. 3-inch-long sabers, swords, halberds, spears, wheels, trigrams, and other weapons were condensed by golden light. They were chaotic and misty, as if they were divine weapons born from chaos. Thousands of them gathered together, forming a sea of golden weapons and a golden storm. The momentum was so great that it slaughtered thousands of creatures. Everything came to an abrupt end. It seemed that the Golden Deva had angered heaven and earth one after another because he had slaughtered all living beings and was finally destroyed by heaven and earth. This is the inheritance of the Golden Origin. Chu Yang knew very well. He had thought hard before, but he never thought that the inheritance was hidden in the golden origin. The Deva in the incomplete book was not on the same level as the golden Deva in Chu Yang's consciousness. The gap between the two was huge. Therefore, it was easy to complete the incomplete celestial visualization painting in the incomplete book. Pop! Chu Yang pointed his finger in the void. His finger was the pen, his spiritual energy was the ink, and the void was the paper. According to the severely damaged lines of the incomplete book, he restored the celestial visualization painting. It was easy. It was as if Chu Yang had seen a real dragon and then painted a flood dragon that was almost the same as a real dragon. Buzz. After the celestial visualization painting was completely outlined by Chu Yang in the void, a burst of dazzling light suddenly burst out. The void trembled and buzzed, as if the Deva had not just been constructed, but had crossed the void and appeared in front of him. Sky flipping seal. With a thought from Chu Yang, the celestial in the void flipped his hand. Instantly, a divine mountain appeared, toppling over. When the divine mountain collapsed, the sky collapsed, and the stars fell. It was a world-ending disaster. The room began to tremble and shake. Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran felt as if the entire room was about to be flipped over. They felt as if their entire bodies were about to be flipped upside down. Their feet and heads were plunged straight into the ground. In their perception, the world had really flipped over and covered them. The cataclysmic seal in the incomplete book was actually completely different from the one in the gold inheritance. The ability of the celestial being he visualized was limited. He was unable to overturn the sky, but he could overturn a mountain and overturn a mountain. Therefore, rather than calling it the sky flipping seal, it was better to call it the mountain flipping seal. However, its power was equally astonishing. When the sky flipping seal was unleashed, it could overturn a divine mountain, collapse the sky, and sink the earth. Therefore, to use the sky flipping seal, one would need the mountain martial spirit or the mountain martial spirit's visualization diagram. Hiss! Fatty Jean couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. From the time Chu Yang deduced the sky flipping seal to the time it was fully displayed, it took less than a quarter of an hour. Chu Yang had already deduced the entire sky flipping seal, and even displayed it to perfection. Is this something that a capable person can do? He was really doubtful. The sky flipping seal had been in the mind of a hypocrite for who knows how long. Not to mention perfection, the hypocrite had been studying it for so many years, but he hadn't been able to figure out anything. Lu Haoran's expression wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, and his eyes wouldn't blink even if a deer appeared on the left. His cultivation was extremely good. He didn't panic in the face of trouble, and remained calm as if there was nothing in the world that could make him pale with fright. However, at this moment, he was also dumbstruck, and his face turned pale with fright. This. He was actually speechless. In the end, Lu Haoran's cultivation was extremely high. He immediately calmed down and thought to himself, this Chu Yang is so extraordinary. Perhaps there really is going to be a good show at the Merry Pavilion. In Fatty Jin's words, he was the richest hypocrite. How could the richest hypocrite not know about the news? Chapter 588. In just a few minutes, Chu Yang had deduced the sky flipping seal. Second Fatty Jean raised the level of Chu Yang's inhuman stage again, and began to attack Lu Haoran. Hypocrite, I'm so pure. Do you think I lied to you? I told you to meet an inhuman scum. Do you believe me now? Lu Haoran ignored Second Fatty Jean, and thanked Chu Yang solemnly. Thank you, Brother Chu. You must be feeling uncomfortable. Second Fatty Jean said before Chu Yang could. Don't bother with this hypocrite. He'll feel uncomfortable if he doesn't do this. Moreover, he'll be able to wash away the shame of the Lu family. The shame of the Lu family was actually involved like this. Chu Yang touched his nose. Second Fatty, There's a limit to your exaggeration. Bullshit. Second Fatty Jean was furious. Master Fatty, I'm telling the truth. That hypocrite sold his precious baby when his family's fortune fell. Although he managed to get it back in the end, he ended up in this state. His grandfather felt ashamed to face his ancestors, so he didn't dare to die. Now that the news has spread, I guarantee that he'll die immediately. Second Fatty is telling the truth. Lu Hauran didn't mind Second Fatty Jin's words at all. He thanked him sincerely again. Thank you, Brother Chu. He immediately ordered someone to send the complete sky flipping seal back. Then, the news of the old man's return came, but Lu Hauran didn't leave. Chu Yang was speechless. Brother Lu, it's not appropriate for you not to go back and send the old man off. Filial piety is the most important virtue. Lu Hauran didn't have any intention of moving. I'm being filial to him by staying here. If I go back now, he'll probably jump out of his coffin. Chu Farron, stop your bullshit. Master Fatty's friends are all top-notch. Second Fatty Jean was very proud and arrogant. Chu Yang couldn't accept this. Just as he was about to speak, a burst of laughter came from outside. Ha ha ha! The voice was loud and clear, echoing throughout the merry house. Hearing this laughter, Second Fatty Jin's face, which was originally proud, suddenly darkened. Second Fatty Jean. That sound rang out again. Every single private room could hear it clearly. Quite a few distinguished guests began to listen curiously. Today, you wish to help your good friend Chu Yang obtain a light attribute treasure? The speaker continued to laugh wildly. Ha ha ha, I can tell you right now that it's impossible. You might as well tell that Chu Yang to come over and bow to me. Today, I'll give him this light and darkness attribute treasure. Wu Guanqi. Second Fatty Jean suddenly roared. What? That person sneered. Are you angry? You useless thing. Second Fatty Jean was already stomping his feet. Haha, I'm so angry. That person became even more proud. Unfortunately, it's useless. Now your Marquis Fu is already a pauper. Humph. Second Fatty Jean coldly snorted and no longer paid attention to the provocation outside. This person mocked Second Fatty Jean several times, but Second Fatty Jean didn't respond and didn't continue. Chu Yang's heart trembled. Could it be that the entire world knew that he was in urgent need of light-type treasures? That was impossible. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes and say, What is this thing? Can you explain its functions and main uses? Second Fatty Jean cursed loudly. Didn't I just call out that bastard's name? Wu Guanqi, the young Marquis of Ronghua Marquis Fu. Chu Yang frowned slightly. Fu of Ronghua Marquis? He didn't offend you. He narrowed his eyes and said lazily, Everyone is a young Marquis. Why are you called a pauper? Second Fatty Jean was furious. Chu Farron, you're the pauper. What pig ears do you have? Can't you tell that this is an obvious slander? Fu of Ronghua Marquis, Fu of Ronghua Marquis, Fu of Ronghua Marquis, Fu has fallen out of favor. Chapter 589. Lu Hauran didn't say anything, and the room suddenly became quiet. Second Fatty Jean furiously chugged down a bottle of wine. After a while, the decadent atmosphere in the room suddenly changed, and the sound of a zither rang out. The sound of the zither was like spring water flowing through one's heart, cleansing one's soul. Chu Yang looked down at the huge hall and immediately saw a woman in purple sitting in front of a zither, playing. An extremely beautiful zither sound. An extremely beautiful person. For a moment, the entire hall seemed to become quiet, and only the sound of the zither could be heard. Especially the sound of the zither, it actually made Chu Yang's soul feel incomparably comfortable. Such a zither skill was simply pure. After the song ended, the hall was silent for a long time. It's actually Fairy Meng. Second Fatty Jean, who was originally unhappy, immediately changed his expression. He beamed with joy and shouted to the servant waiting outside, Go, let Fairy Meng come here. Yes. The servant outside the door complied. Ha, but just as second Fatty Jean finished speaking, Wu Guanqi spoke. Fairy Meng's zither skill is truly incomparable. How about I invite Fairy Meng to my room for a chat? His voice reverberated throughout the hall. Inside the hall, the attendant, who had just walked down the suspended corridor and arrived at the center of the hall under second Fatty Jin's orders, was stunned when he heard the words, "How about inviting Fairy Meng to my, Wu Guanqi's, private room for a chat?" He quickly asked, "Young Marquis Jean also wants Fairy Meng to come over." Beside Fairy Meng, Lady Yi laughed and said, "Young Marquis, Fairy Meng can't be split into two. What do you think she should do?" Haha, second Fatty Jean, you also want to invite Fairy Meng? Wu Guanqi immediately became proud. Second Fatty Jean, I don't want to criticize you, but if you want to invite her, you need to show sincerity. How can I be as uncourteous as you? Second Fatty Jean stomped his feet again. The two of them spoke loudly in different rooms. In the other rooms, there were also young masters, nobles of Jinyuan City, and even geniuses of various sections. However, they were just happy to watch the show. After all, second Fatty Jean and Wu Guanqi were the two young marquis of Jinyuan City. They didn't dare to mess around when the two young marquis were fighting. Wu Guanqi? Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. This Wu Guanqi was really going against second Fatty Jean. It was also equivalent to him showing off his strength. He was indirectly telling second Fatty Jean that he could forget about getting what he wanted. Missy. Wu Guanqi raised his voice again. Second Fatty Jean didn't make an appointment with Fairy Meng beforehand, right? No. Since both second Fatty Jean and I want to invite Fairy Meng, let's see who offers the highest price. Wu Guanqi's voice resounded throughout the hall. I offer 3 items. Immediately, discussions broke out in all the elegant rooms in the hall. Chu Yang had some doubts in his heart. 3? 3 what? Second Fatty Jean coldly and angrily said, I bid 5. Ha ha, second Fatty Jean, you want to compete with me? You think you can beat me? Wu Guanqi was very arrogant. I'll give you 10. I'll offer 15. Second Fatty Jean clenched his teeth and called out the price. Lu Haoran, who was beside him, said, Second Fatty Jean, if you want to invite Fairy Meng to accompany Brother Chu, you might as well bid as much as you can. Hypocrite, are you sick in the head? Second Fatty Jean directly said to Lu Haoran angrily, Lord Fatty, I know you're a god of wealth, but it's just a bullshit Fairy Meng. You can only look at her but can't touch her. What's the use of having her? Lord Fatty, I don't want this grandson to spend so much money today. I'll call you Lord Thin from now on. I'll offer 30. Wu Guanqi called out again. This time, second Fatty Jin's face was full of ridicule, and he didn't speak anymore. Second Fatty Jin, why aren't you bidding? Wu Guanqi shouted loudly, provoking him. I congratulate you for spending 30 ascending soul-tier weapons to invite Fairy Meng to accompany you. Second Fatty Jin's face was full of disdain, but his voice was full of anger, obviously misleading Wu Guanqi. 30 ascending soul-tier weapons? Beside him, Chu Yang was startled. So the 3, 5, and 10 they were talking about were all ascending soul-tier weapons. They really knew how to play. When Chu Yang was still playing with origin crystals and spirit crystals, they were already playing with these. And speaking of ascending soul-tier weapons, he had only robbed a few from the Burning Sky Saint Sun and the 5 Elements Divine Sun. Crazy, this was too crazy. Chu Yang was speechless. All right, he admitted that he wasn't up to standard, that he was a country bumpkin. He worked so hard to rob people, and the little bit of wealth he accumulated wasn't even enough for these 2 things to fight with. Chapter 590. Outside, Wu Guanqi's arrogant voice could be heard. Missy also announced that Fairy Meng was going to Wu Guanqi. Inside Wu Guanqi's room. Inside the room, Wu Guanqi was sitting with 3 men. As for their servants and followers, they were in a separate room. Second Fatty Jean must be mad right now. Wu Guanqi held the jade cup, licked the wine with his scarlet tongue, and laughed loudly. This is just the beginning. Recently, I've received a lot of treasures and some powerful hangers-on. After the auction, the treasure fight, and the gambling fight, I'll definitely make him vomit blood today. He'll never forget this for the rest of his life, and he'll have to lower his head when he sees me in the future. We will congratulate young Master Fox in advance. It's good to see Second Fatty Jean lose face. Haha. The three people beside him raised their cups to celebrate in advance and laughed heartily. However, the three of them seemed to look at each other and couldn't help but smile. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire merry pavilion shook. It was as if a giant beast opened its mouth. A huge auction hall appeared in front of everyone's eyes. There were already many people sitting in the hall. The four people of the Sun family, the one-eyed middle-aged man, Sun Yangon, Sun Zishir, and Sun Lele were in the hall. The old man Chu Yang saw before, Zhou San, was standing on the auction stage with a smile on his face. Everyone, the Merry Pavilion's auction officially begins. As he spoke, he picked up a visualization diagram and said to the crowd, "This is the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram." River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram. Chu Yang, who was in the private room, was shocked. He was in a very good position in the private room. He was looking down from a high vantage point. He could clearly see the situation in the auction house. It was as if he was looking at the fish in the fish tank from the outside. Wasn't this a little too extravagant? And this was just the beginning. It was just a warm-up. He had already taken out the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram. Such a priceless item. The River Martial Spirit was very precious. In the 5 Elements sex gambling fight, Chao Ju bet a lot to get the Water Element Peak Master Lu Tianrui's Lake Martial Spirit. Chu Yang was really shocked. This meant that there were more amazing things than the River Martial Spirit waiting to be auctioned. Boom! In the entire auction house, all of the private rooms were shaken. Cries of surprise and roars filled the air. Oh my God! Even the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram is being auctioned. Is he crazy? The River Martial Spirit is a nature martial spirit. How could someone take out such a visualization diagram for auction? There are all kinds of people in this world. Auctioning this River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram, I guarantee that he is definitely an idiot. Idiot is not enough to describe him. He is probably a prodigal son, just like how the Lu family took out the sky flipping seal to auction before. In the private room, Second Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran were also extremely shocked, especially Lu Haoran, who couldn't help but bitterly smile. That was the shame of the Lu family, and it was also the reason why his grandfather refused to die before the heaven flipping seal could be repaired. I have to get this River Martial Spirit no matter what. I have to get it at all costs. The River Martial Spirit Visualization Picture is a family treasure. As long as we have the River Martial Spirit Visualization Picture, generations of family disciples will be stronger than others and the family will prosper. The value of the River Martial Spirit Visualization Picture was too great. Although it couldn't be compared with the River Martial Spirit, if a family got it, the strength of the whole family would increase by a level. The effect was immeasurable. Chapter 591. Dang dang dang. The auctioneer, Zhou San, rang the huge bell beside him. The leisurely sound of the bell soon calmed the crowd down. Everyone, Zhou San said, the auctioneer has a condition. Only Soul Wheel Realm artifacts are allowed to bid. Soul Wheel Realm artifacts. Boom. The entire auction house was once again in an uproar. That was because this request was truly too ridiculous. Who would auction off a soul reincarnation treasure in their hands? That would be a complete idiot. Ascending soul tier weapons, Chi soul tier martial artists could rely on them to withstand the soul pressure of an ascending soul tier martial artist. As for soul wheel tier treasured weapons, defensive weapons could form a domain, while offensive weapons could directly break through a soul wheel tier martial artist's domain. It could be said that although a soul wheel realm artifact was an inanimate object, it was equivalent to a soul wheel realm martial artist. The value of a soul wheel realm martial artist was definitely immeasurable. This is crazy. Chu Yang was shocked again. If he had a soul wheel realm artifact, he might be able to kill a soul wheel realm martial artist. This river martial spirit visualization diagram has nothing to do with me. Second Fatty Jean spread out his hands, indicating that he had been eliminated. Although the rich country's Marquis Manor had the mountain martial spirit visualization diagram, they wouldn't complain about having too many river martial spirit visualization diagrams. However, the price of the river martial spirit visualization diagram was too high. Even Second Fatty Jean couldn't afford it. Moreover, the rich country's Marquis Manor already had the mountain martial spirit visualization diagram. The mountain martial spirit visualization diagram and the river martial spirit visualization diagram were both natural martial spirit. In a certain sense, the effects of the mountain martial spirit visualization diagram and the river martial spirit visualization diagram overlap. Second Fatty Jin's value decreased greatly. Therefore, it wasn't worth it to use a soul wheel realm artifact to exchange for it. In the short term, although this soul wheel realm artifact is an inanimate object, it can be said to be equivalent to a soul wheel realm martial artist. It has the ability to fight in a timely manner. The value of the river martial spirit visualization diagram is not as high. Lu Haoran was evaluating the value of the river martial spirit visualization diagram. However, in the long term, with the river martial spirit visualization diagram, the strength of the family's descendants would increase. If it fell into the hands of a genius, its value would be even higher. And it could even break through the soul wheel realm and become a true soul wheel realm martial artist. Therefore, in the long term, river martial spirit visualization diagram would be much more than a soul wheel realm artifact. What a pity! Lu Haoran felt very regretful. Although the Lu clan was wealthy, they didn't have any soul reincarnation realm artifact. After all, the Lu clan had just recovered. In order to redeem the sky flipping seal, they had paid a huge price. Clang! Clang! The bell rang once more, and when the crowd calmed down again, the old auctioneer spoke again. The auction starts now, the highest bidder wins. Along with his voice, the bell rang again, but the field was silent. After that, there was a lot of discussion in the auction house. Everyone was discussing and evaluating whether it was worth auctioning. However, in fact, there were very few people who had the ability to bid for the river martial spirit visualization painting. No one bid for a long time. At this time, Chu Yang immediately understood why the river martial spirit visualization diagram was such an item and why the Merry Pavilion had started the auction. It was very likely that no one would bid for it. However, it was best to use the river martial spirit visualization diagram as an opening. The effect of the atmosphere reached its peak and shocked everyone. Clang! Clang! The bell rang again. The auctioneer waited for a long time, but no one spoke. He had no choice but to ask, "Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone who wants to bid?" No one answered. "Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask 3 times. After the 3rd time, the river martial spirit visualization diagram will be announced as no one will bid for it. We will proceed to the next round of bidding." Clang! Clang! If not... Chapter 592. A Soul Wheel Realm Artifact. Someone made a bid. Once this voice rang out, the entire auction house went into an uproar again, like a pot of boiling water. Oh my God, someone actually made a bid. What's so strange about that? The river martial spirit visualization diagram is also extraordinary. That's right. In the long run, the value of the river martial spirit visualization diagram is far greater than a soul wheel realm artifact. especially in the large clans, where many disciples share it. Chu Yang naturally wasn't unfamiliar with this voice, Ronghua House's young Marquis Wu Guanqi. Hearing this voice, second Fatty Jean seemed to have a bad premonition. The fat on his face couldn't help but twitch. His eyes completely narrowed, and even the slits disappeared. If his eyebrows were shaved off, then it would be a piece of white meat. Dang dang dang! The auctioneer's face was brimming with a smile. Auctioning it was obviously better than not auctioning it. Everyone, Ronghua House's young Marquis Wu has made a bid for a Soul Wheel Realm artifact. Any bidders? There was no sound. Everyone's gaze was focused on Chu Yang and second Fatty Jin's room, as if everyone was waiting for second Fatty Jin to make a bid. Young Marquis against young Marquis. Only with equal status would one dare to make a bid. Otherwise, the consequences would be severe. However, what made everyone disappointed was that second Fatty Jean didn't make a sound. Dang dang dang! The auctioneer was clearly very disappointed, but he didn't give up. He opened his mouth again. Ronghua House's young Marquis Wu has made a bid for a Soul Wheel Realm artifact. Any bidders? Everyone's gaze once again focused on the room Chu Yang and second Fatty Jean were in. Second Fatty Jin's face was very ugly, no longer smiling. He seemed to already know what Wu Guanqi would do next, but he still didn't make a bid. Dang dang dang! After 3 inquiries, the auctioneer rang the large bell and announced on the spot, Ronghua House's young Marquis Wu has made a bid for a Soul Wheel Realm artifact and obtained the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram. Congratulations, young Marquis Wu. Immediately, he was about to order someone to send the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram over, but at this time, Wu Guanqi's voice rang out, "Wait." When Wu Guanqi spoke, everyone knew that there was a good show. Second Fatty Jean, why aren't you bidding? Don't you know that the River Martial Spirit's Visualization Diagram is worth more than a Soul Wheel Realm artifact in the long run? Wu Guanqi's mocking voice resounded throughout the entire merry pavilion. I don't know if it's because you're stupid, or if your wealthy country's marquee mansion is so poor that you can't even take out a Soul Reincarnation Realm artifact. Wu Guanqi, you bastard! Second Fatty Jean was completely enraged. Stop your bullshit. Is the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram that rare? My marquee mansion has a lot of Martial Spirit Visualization Diagrams. Do we lack a Nature Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram? He didn't think it wasn't enough and immediately added, You idiot, you're so happy to get a River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram. You really haven't seen the world. Low level. Am I low level, or are you so poor that you can't even compare? Wu Guanqi didn't get angry, and became even more playful. Second Fatty Jean, can I call you a pauper in the future? Is your marquee mansion going to be destroyed immediately? I don't talk to low-level things. Second Fatty Jean clearly lacked confidence. Haha. Wu Guanqi finally laughed out loud and sharply mocked. The wealthy country's marquee mansion is filled with people like you who don't have good eyesight. No wonder the wealthy country's marquee mansion has fallen out of favor. You? Second Fatty Jin's expression couldn't help but change. Such a thing was said in front of everyone. The wealthy country's marquee mansion's prestige would definitely plummet. If they couldn't fight back, the marquee mansion of Rhone country would definitely follow their lead in the future. Chapter 593. Did I say something wrong? Wu Guanqi's voice resounded through the hall again, and this time it was even more mocking. In the private room, Fatty Jin's face was extremely dark, but Wu Guanqi wasn't done yet. Can I trouble you to let Fatty Jin see the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram? This was a slap to Fatty Jin's face. The entire hall fell silent. Young Marquis, this... The auctioneer hesitated. Chu Yang was in Fatty Jin's private room. If Chu Yang saw the River Martial Spirit Visualization Diagram, he couldn't bear the responsibility. Pfft! Wu Guanqi sneered. You think Fatty Jean can learn the river martial spirit visualization diagram with just one look? Don't worry, just do as I say. At worst, I'll just give the image of the river martial spirit to that poor guy. The river martial spirit visualization diagram was extremely powerful. How could it be memorized with just one look? Being able to grasp the image of the river martial spirit was already heaven-defying, so Wu Guanqi's words weren't wrong. Yes, young Marquis. The auctioneer, Zhou San, immediately showed the river martial spirit visualization diagram to Chu Yang and the others. Fatty Jean gritted his teeth, and Lu Haoran's face was also sullen. However, they found that Chu Yang and Xiao Guai had their eyes wide open. Especially Chu Yang, who looked as if he was looking at a beauty taking a bath. It would be a waste not to look at it. Fatty Jean was speechless, then horrified. This isn't human. Is he planning to memorize the river martial spirit with just one look and visualize it? He must be crazy. Whoosh. At this moment, the auctioneer, Zhou San, opened the river martial spirit visualization diagram, but only for a moment. Rumble. Chu Yang's forehead emitted the sound of a surging river. The genius martial spirit, the universal reflector, and himself all tried to capture the image on the river martial spirit visualization diagram. Although it was only for a moment, he instantly captured the image of the river martial spirit. On the universal reflector, a large river came out of a deep valley and surged. This, second Fatty Jean, and Lu Haoran were both flabbergasted. This was simply too shocking. Then, they recalled how Chu Yang had only used a short amount of time to decipher the heaven-flipping seal. Only then did they recover from their shock. Immediately, both of them had a thought at the same time. Perhaps Chu Yang could visualize the river martial spirit just by looking at it. Don't be so fast. What can you tell if it's that fast? I say, old thing, aren't you thinking too highly of second Fatty Jean? Wu Guanqi's voice rang out again. Don't worry, if anything happens, I definitely won't hold you accountable. Open up the river martial spirit visualization diagram again and fix it there for a while. Let that poor bastard second Fatty Jean take a good look at it. In the future, he probably won't be able to come into contact with something of this level. We need to sympathize with him and mourn for him. The river martial spirit visualization diagram was unfurled, but it still had to stay there for a while. Second Fatty Jin's expression was extremely interesting. Right now, he wasn't angry at all. Instead, he was extremely shocked. What was courting death? This was it. If he didn't court death, he wouldn't have died. Why did he have to fix it there for a while? Chu Farron seemed to be about to visualize the river martial spirit. This clearly meant that he was giving the river martial spirit visualization diagram to Chu Yang. Lu Haoran was also stunned. Right now, he couldn't imagine how stupid Wu Guanqi was. He actually did such a stupid thing. He spent a soul reincarnation realm item to obtain the river martial spirit visualization diagram, and now he was giving it to Chu Yang for free. What a strange brain structure, what a miraculous person. Second Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran no longer had the energy to criticize Wu Guanqi. Yes, young Marquis. The auctioneer, Zhou San, slowly unfolded the river martial spirit visualization diagram in front of Chu Yang and the others. Then, he stopped. Buzz. Buzz. The universal reflector was activated to its maximum. Chu Yang also activated his genius martial spirit to its maximum. He crazily memorized the river martial spirit visualization diagram's form and spirit. Chapter 594. Rumble. The sound of the river was even more deafening. Originally, only Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran could hear it. However, at this moment, it was as if there really was a huge river surging in the happy pavilion. The rumbling sound of the raging river came out from the elegant room and resounded throughout the happy pavilion. Impossible, this is impossible. Wu Guanqi's shocked voice immediately mixed with the sound of the raging river and resounded in everyone's ears. However, it was soon drowned out by the sound of the raging river. This monster! The auctioneer, Zhou San, staggered and almost fell to the ground. In his panic, he hurriedly tried to keep the river martial spirit visualization diagram and almost tore it in half. Previously, he thought that Chu Yang might be able to completely capture the river martial spirit. However, he immediately denied it because it was impossible. Therefore, when everything happened, he almost collapsed. Is he still a human? The entire auction house was in an uproar and clamor. Shocking, it was really too shocking. Just by looking at it for a short while, he was able to capture the entire river martial spirit. Was this possible? Could it be that the young marquis of the rich country is faking it? Some people were already suspicious. That's right. Although the young marquis of the rich country has a good comprehension ability, he definitely does not have such a peerless talent. If he has such a peerless talent and is a peerless monster with his character, how could he keep quiet all this time? We have seen the young marquis of the rich country before. It should be said that he does not have such ability. In Jinyuan City, there were many people who were familiar with Fatty Jean. When someone raised this suspicion, many people immediately agreed. Naturally, many people did not know that this was related to Chu Yang. They did not even know about Chu Yang's existence. Rumble. Just when many people were guessing, the sound of the raging river became even more deafening and resounded through everyone's eardrums. Then, everyone saw a gap suddenly appear in the elegant room above. A river surged out and appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, the entire area was deathly silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Everyone's eyes were glued to the huge river formed by Zhenyuan. At this moment, this large river wasn't as blurry as what Second Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran had seen before, nor was it as simple as a large river flowing out of a deep valley. Now, the great river that appeared in front of everyone was strange, majestic, June, grand. The heavenly gate was cut off and the Chu River opened. The jade water flowed eastward. The green hills on both sides of the river face each other, and the sun is setting. The two mountain-like rocks faced each other from east to west, sandwiching the great river. They faced each other like a gate. The great river was like a giant axe that split open the gate of heaven. It rushed out with a rumble. The vast and boundless water opened up a narrow passage between the two mountains. The river water reverberated and surged violently. What was most surprising was that in the torrential current of the great river, there was a lone boat riding the great river, leisurely coming from the horizon. Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched. The majestic and vast, the mountains and rivers were steep and unstoppable, giving people a soul-stirring feeling. In everyone's perception, the mighty great river seemed like a heavenly river that had broken through the gate of heaven and appeared in the world. That kind of scene was really like a giant spirit roaring and splitting the two mountains, and the flood shooting towards the eastern sea. This great river seemed to be a creature with a huge life force, and had the power to break through all obstacles. The gate of heaven was about to be broken through by it, and the mountains were about to be split open by it. It was unstoppable, and all who stood in its way were destroyed. This wasn't the most shocking part. This was only the whole thing, and the details were also extremely clear and real. After the great river left the gate of heaven, it was majestically bathed in the spring light. It was extremely beautiful, and the cries of apes could be heard on both sides of the river. When it reached an open area, the river water slowed down, and the wind blew, bringing the fragrance of flowers and plants on both sides of the river. There were swallows that were busy building their nests with wet mud in their mouths, and pairs of mandarin ducks were sleeping on the warm sand. The blue waves of the river water were vast and mighty, setting off the snow-white feathers of the water birds. The mountains were lush and green, and the red flowers reflected each other, as if they were about to burn. Chapter 595. So vigorous, so majestic, such a steep river. It really broke through the gate of heaven, split the mountains, and appeared in front of me. Many people had forgotten that this was a secret battle between the two young marquises. When they exclaimed, it was as if they were talking in a dream. Is this true? He only took a look at the river martial spirit visualization picture, and then looked at it for a short while. Moreover, he looked at it from afar through the transparent shield. How could he completely visualize the river martial spirit? The giant spirit roared and split the two mountains, and the flood shot towards the East Sea. Such a river is so powerful, who can stop it? Once it is displayed, it will break through the gate of heaven, split the mountains. My God, he has completely captured the spirit and shape of the river martial spirit in the visualization picture. It is really incredible. Not only that, this big river created by the true essence not only has the general momentum, but also many small details are clear, vivid, and very real. The cries of apes and the roars of tigers, the lush ancient trees and flowers on both sides of the river, the spring swallows that build their nests with mud, the mandarin ducks on the beach, the white water birds. The more the person looked, the more shocked he was. Looking at this big river in front of me, I feel as if I am on the bank of a big river in spring. Not only do I hear the cries of apes and the roars of tigers, but I also feel the river breeze and smell the fragrance of flowers. Yes, it seems that the young marquis of the rich country has completely imprinted the spirit of the river martial spirit in his mind. In the midst of the hubbub, the elder Zhou San, who was in the center of the auction house, was trembling and turning blue and purple, as if he was frozen. It was he who showed the river martial spirit visualization picture to Chu Yang, so he knew how long Chu Yang had spent looking at it. That short period of time was only 2 or 3 farts, but Chu Yang had completely captured the spirit of the river martial spirit. The third princess of Wei country and Miss Yi, who were in the dark, looked at the scene in front of them and were dumbfounded. They were speechless for a long time. To them, the upper limit of Chu Yang's evaluation was like the gate of heaven being broken through by the river, or like a divine mountain being split open. Chu Yang's upper limit was not something they could imagine. This Chu Yang must die, he must die, he must die. The third princess of the Wei country was extremely shocked. At this moment, her killing intent was incomparably thick. Chu Yang was too shocking. She couldn't imagine how shocking he was and couldn't accept it at all. He is indeed going to die. If he doesn't die, we will be sitting on pins and needles. The cold light in Miss Yi's pretty eyes abruptly froze. She was also frightened. Of course, they didn't need to investigate or guess. They knew that this person must be Chu Yang. It was impossible for Second Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran to have such talent in the VIP room. Ha ha! Second Fatty Jin's proud and arrogant laughter resounded throughout the entire auction house and the entire merry pavilion. Everyone, I'm sorry to have frightened you. Second Fatty Jean continued to boast, but I can't help it. I can't take any provocation. Once provoked, I will flip out. I just want to provoke you. Yes, that's right, I am that shocking. I hope you can accept it, ha ha. His laughter made Wu Guanqi's face turn ashen and black. Impossible, absolutely impossible. This fat pig can't have such talent, absolutely impossible. Hey, I forgot a very important thing. Chapter 596. Second Fatty Jean. Wu Guanqi's furious voice resounded through the entire merry pavilion. From his voice, everyone could smell the fragrance of meat and see the smell of blood. They could see Wu Guanqi being roasted by his anger and exploding into pieces, filling the air with his flesh and blood. Smart and wise, the smartest person in the world, the young Marquis of Rongua Marquis House, the famous Wu Guanqi. What do you want? Chu Yang looked at the smug Second Fatty Jean and only laughed. This guy's ability to mock and make sarcastic remarks was definitely not below his own. Lu Haoran also laughed. This fatty was so irritated just now that he was stomping his feet. Now, this fatty was really going to return all of his anger. Second fatty Jean, don't be too smug. Wu Guanxi gnashed his teeth. Smug? Second fatty Jean sneered again, once again emphasizing Wu Guanxi's intelligence. Smart and wise, the smartest person in the world, the young Marquis of Rongua Marquis House, the famous Wu Guanxi. Where did you see me being smug? And why did I only see your intelligence? You are really too smart. You. Although second fatty Jean didn't see Wu Guanxi's expression, he could imagine how angry he was and felt incomparably happy. However, when he looked at Chu Yang again, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch, the fat on his body visibly rippling. This pervert, he really wants to scare people to death. Dang dang dang. The auctioneer rang the large bell on Wednesday. The long sound of the bell pulled everyone back into the auction, and the auction continued. There were a lot of things being auctioned. Pills, artifacts, all kinds of rare herbs, strange fruits, cultivation methods, etc. Almost everything that Chu Yang could think of was being auctioned. Second fatty Jean didn't participate in the bidding, and neither did Wu Guanxi. The two of them were surprisingly calm. On the other hand, the nobles and cultivators of Jinyuan City were crazily bidding, and the price was extremely high. Chu Yang was already frowning. The calmer Wu Guanxi was now, the fiercer he would be later. Finally, the items that Chu Yang wanted were being auctioned. The noisy auction house couldn't help but fall silent. Everyone. The old auctioneer, Zhou San, had a brilliant smile on his face. The fiercest bidding war was about to begin. The attendant had been waiting respectfully with a tray in hand for a long time. Zhou San lifted the cloth on the tray, and the item on it instantly appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a grain of white and black rice with dragon patterns on it. At first glance, there seemed to be a large dragon swimming in it. Rather than calling it a grain of rice, it would be better to call it a grain of rice. This grain of rice was very large, at least 2 feet long. In order to prevent the essence from leaking out, it was sealed in a transparent jade artifact. Everyone. The smile on the auctioneer's face became even brighter. As you can see, this rice is black and white and there are dragon patterns on it. Looking at it, one can see the essence energy moving like a dragon, so this rice is called dragon rice. Dragon rice. The auction house burst into an uproar. When the auctioneer heard this, he was very satisfied with this reaction. Just as you think, the dragon rice is indeed something that the great emperor of the eastern wilderness ordered people to cultivate. The great emperor of the eastern wilderness wants everyone to be like a dragon, and the dragon rice is one of them, called the black and white dragon rice. The auctioneer, Zhou San, spoke frankly with assurance, and introduced the dragon rice one by one. In the private room, second fatty Jean and Lu Haoran had already cried out in surprise, because this was related to the great emperor of the eastern wilderness. This was the first time Chu Yang had heard of this so-called great emperor of the eastern wilderness. When he asked the two, they only gave him a rough explanation, but they also mentioned Emperor Island. After that, there was no more time, and the auction officially began. Chapter 597. 10,000 high-grade spiritual crystals was neither too much nor too little. According to Chu Yang's calculations, this was roughly equivalent to 1 million yuan in his previous life. When the auction started, Chu Yang didn't say anything. Second fatty Jean didn't say anything. Lu Haoran also didn't say anything. On the other side, Wu Guanxi did not make a sound. In the auction house, no one made a bid. The atmosphere was a little strange. The smile of the auctioneer, Zhou San, suddenly froze on his face. The crazy bidding and the battle of wealth between second fatty Jean and Wu Guanxi did not appear. The entire auction house was terrifyingly quiet. The starting price of the black-white dragon rice is 10,000 high-grade spiritual crystals. Are there any bidders? Zhou Wei's hoarse voice rang out, echoing in the silent auction house, causing the atmosphere in the auction house to become even stranger. Monster Chu, you seem to be the target of their anger. I was just implicated. Don't you think so? Second Fatty Jean suddenly spoke in the room. It was very sudden. At least, that was what Chu Yang felt. It seemed so. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. He had just arrived in Jinyuan City, but someone already knew that he urgently needed a treasure like the black-white dragon rice. Just this point alone was very mysterious. There must be a demon behind the abnormal. There must be something strange amidst the mysterious. In fact, he had already smelled a trace of something unusual. Brother Chu, you have to be careful. There are many people who want to kill you. Lu Haoran suddenly opened his mouth, and a cold light suddenly flashed in Chu Yang's eyes. Before I came, I heard that the Soul Devourer clan wants to kill you. They hired assassins from the Merry Pavilion. The person in charge of this matter is the third princess of Wei Kingdom. Wei Kingdom also wants to kill Brother Chu. Lu Haoran knew the details. At this moment, Chu Yang finally understood why Second Fatty Jean had invited Lu Haoran. It was not without reason. Second Fatty, thank you. Chu Yang sincerely thanked him. He also said the same to Lu Haoran, Brother Lu, thank you. At this moment, he also understood why Lu Haoran did not leave. It turned out that he had not said the most important thing, or was hesitating to say it. I don't know anything. Second Fatty Jean suddenly giggled. I don't know anything either. Lu Haoran also smiled. Brother Chu, of all virtues, filial piety is the most important. When I was young, my grandfather loved me very much. I have to go back and observe filial piety. The most important thing was done, so he naturally had to leave. Brother Lu, help me burn a stick of incense and apologize to him on my behalf. I've taken up too much of your time. Chu Yang felt a little apologetic. Brother Chu, actually, I hope that Brother Chu didn't hear anything just now. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for me. Chu Yang understood that although Lu Haoran had the means to obtain information, he was also exposed. If Chu Yang were to explode, Lu Haoran and the Lu family would have to bear the consequences. It could be said that when Lu Haoran said those words just now, he was actually taking a huge risk. He also sincerely regarded Chu Yang as a friend. Brother Lu, don't worry. Chu Yang solemnly promised. Brother Chu, I'm truly sorry. Lu Haoran said apologetically. Brother Lu, I'm already very grateful. Chu Yang was not only grateful, he was even a little touched. They had only met by chance and had only interacted for a short while, but Lu Haoran had already become close friend. What more could he ask for? Where else could he find such a friend? He felt that his luck was very good, very, very good. Not only did he meet Second Fatty Jean, but he also met Lu Haoran. These two were not bad friends. There were not many good things like this in life, so he was very happy. He smiled happily. Crazy! Seeing Chu Yang's happy smile, Second Fatty Jean couldn't help but throw out these words. If he knew that he was going to be cut down and die soon, he definitely wouldn't be able to smile. Chapter 598. After Lu Haoran left, the auctioneer, Zhou San, started his second inquiry to see if anyone wanted to bid. Second Fatty, why do they want to kill me? Lu Haoran had already revealed a lot of information, so Chu Yang couldn't ask further. Now, he could only ask Second Fatty Jean. Emperor Island. Second Fatty Jean rolled his eyes and said, this time, only those below the soul reincarnation realm can enter Emperor Island. How can they be at ease with a demon like you entering Emperor Island? Chu Yang finally knew the reason. In other words, they have already figured out my background. He had caused a huge commotion in the Five Elements sect. It wouldn't be difficult for them to find out about him. I'm not sure. However, in the battle later, they will definitely try their best to get you to fight so that they can confirm your strength more accurately. Second Fatty, I'm a little angry now, Chu Yang said with anger in his heart. He was afraid that he would have to follow their script. Otherwise, Lu Haoran would be in trouble. It's time for you to bid? Second Fatty Jean rolled his eyes again. It would be strange if he wasn't angry. At this moment, the auctioneer was already sweating in the auction below. He started his third inquiry. Black and white dragon rice. Starting price is 10,000 upper spiritual crystals. Anyone want to bid? Chu Yang looked at the auction house below, and then looked at the elegant room where Wu Guanqi was. Murderous intent surged in his heart. This Wu Guanqi should be their vanguard. Soul Devourer clan. Wei Kingdom. Every one of them was a huge figure and had the ability to take Chu Yang's life. At this moment, he was under immense pressure. Just as the black and white dragon rice was about to be sold, he finally said lazily, 10,000 upper spiritual crystals. It wasn't Second Fatty Jin's voice. Instantly, many people in the auction hall looked at the elegant room where Chu Yang was. Great! Zhou San, Miss Yi, and the third princess of Wei Kingdom were all delighted. Wu Guanqi couldn't help but sneer. Finally, you can't sit still anymore? 100,000 Shang Ping high-grade spiritual crystals. He also began to bid. Chu Yang knew in his heart that he would not be able to obtain the black and white dragon rice no matter what. Otherwise, how could they let him off the stage during the battle? 100,001 spirit crystals. 200,000 spirit crystals. 200,001 spirit crystals. 300,000 spirit crystals. 301 spiritual crystals. Chu Yang always gave Wu Guanqi one more spirit crystal. Second Fatty Jin's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He really knew how to play. Boom. The auction house was in an uproar. Who is this? He's so bold. Every time, there's only one more spirit crystal. Is he trying to slap the face of the Marquis's mansion? It should be Second Fatty Jin's friend. He's just a friend of Second Fatty Jin. He thinks that he's also a young Marquis like Second Fatty Jin. He actually dares to offend the young Marquis of Ronggua's house. He already offended him. When he became Second Fatty Jin's friend, he already offended young Marquis Wu. Damn it! In the room, Wu Guanqi was extremely furious. Second Fatty Jin didn't stand up at all, and this Chu Yang dared to not give him face. He was also extremely excessive. Every time, there was only one more spirit crystal. 1,000,000 upper spiritual crystals. After Wu Guanqi bid, he sneered. Damn thing, I want to see how long you can keep up. I also want to see Second Fatty Jin, how long you can endure. Second Fatty Jin laughed evilly and replied, Young Marquis Wu, you've found the wrong person. This matter has nothing to do with me. This is Chu Yang's matter. You'd better not hate the wrong person. Chapter 599. 3 Soul Wheel Realm Artifacts. Boom. Instantly, the entire auction house was in an uproar. A single Soul Wheel Realm artifact was worth more than the black and white dragon rice. Now, the price had reached 3 Soul Wheel Realm artifacts. You're crazy! Second Fatty Jin was also scared half to death by Chu Yang. He immediately jumped up. His fat body was like a ball that bounced 3 feet high. That comical appearance made Chu Yang almost burst out laughing. Second Fatty, your reaction of being shocked is really lively. Lively, you bastard, you still have the mood to joke at this time. However, Second Fatty Jin wasn't an idiot. He only needed to think for a bit before he understood. The black and white dragon rice was the bait that the other party prepared for Chu Yang. To the other party, whether it was 3 Soul Wheel Realm artifacts or 300 Soul Wheel Realm artifacts, it was all the same. It was just a matter of using the left hand and using the right hand. Aren't you afraid that they'll see through it? If the other party gave up on the auction and the Merry Pavilion asked Chu Yang for 3 Soul Wheel Realm artifacts, What should he do? Chu Yang asked. Second Fatty, are you 100% sure that I won't be able to take out 3 soul reincarnation treasures? Second Fatty Jean couldn't be sure, so the other party couldn't be sure either. Therefore, they definitely wouldn't bet. Humph. But suddenly, Fatty Jean sneered. Monster Chu, have you ever thought that if the other party suspects that you have a soul reincarnation realm artifact on you, the lineup they send to kill you will be incomparably powerful? At that time, I'll see how you die. Chu Yang froze. He really didn't think about this problem. Lifting a rock and smashing one's own foot. How stupid. After a moment of silence, Wu Guanqi's angry voice rang out. Second Fatty Jean, you want to compete with me in terms of wealth? Fine, I'll compete with you. Today, I'll let everyone see whether your rich country marquis residence is stronger or my Rhone country marquis residence is stronger. I'll take out 5 soul wheel realm artifacts. Amidst the uproar, Fatty Jean gritted his teeth. Monster Chu, my rich country marquis mansion has a grudge against you. Once you open your mouth, my rich country marquis mansion's prestige will drop like a river. Chu Yang felt apologetic in his heart. He had really invisibly raised the prestige of the marquis mansion of Rhone Nation and ruthlessly cheated the marquis mansion of Fu Nation. The other two remained silent. The auctioneer asked 3 times on Wednesday, but no one else made a bid. He announced on the spot that Wu Guanqi of the Marquis residence had won the black and white dragon rice with a sky-high price of 5 soul reincarnation artifact. However, the black-white dragon rice did not reach Wu Guanqi. Instead, it remained where it was. Gambling fight. Wu Guanqi applied for a gambling fight. Gambling fights were allowed during the auction. This was a special feature of the Merry Pavilion. In the gambling fight, those who lost the bid had the hope of winning back what they needed from the gambling fight, and those who successfully won the bid could also win back their losses through the gambling fight. This was a game between the two sides. Fatty Jean, didn't you want the black and white dragon rice? I'll use the black and white dragon rice to gamble with you. If you win, I'll give you the black and white dragon rice. If you lose, I won't ask for much. You just have to bark like a dog. Do you dare? It's here. The other party had done so much to prepare for this moment. Fatty Jean couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. Accept. Chu Yang's reply was very short. You have to think carefully. Fatty Jean no longer had his usual frivolous attitude. He said seriously, life and death in gambling fights are predestined. This is not a test. You might be killed on the stage. After a moment of hesitation, he said, actually, you don't have to worry about me and my hypocrisy. I can tell you the truth. The Marquis Mansion of Fu Nation is standing on both sides. The news of your arrival and other things were leaked by me. This time, I came to the Merry Pavilion because of the mission they gave me. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. Everything was easy to explain now. Chapter 600. If it wasn't for Second Fatty Jean revealing his whereabouts, none of this would have happened. It could be said that it was all because of Second Fatty Jean. Chu Yang was furious, but he couldn't let his emotions affect his decisions. This was a complicated friend. Violence wouldn't solve the problem. It would only make things more complicated. Second Fatty Jean didn't have to say what he said just now. He had gained his trust, so he could stab him in the back. Even if Second Fatty Jean didn't reveal my whereabouts, I'll be targeted as soon as I show my face in Jinyuan City. It's just a matter of time. Chu Yang lowered his eyes. Who is your superior? Phew. Finally, he passed. Second Fatty Jean let out a long sigh. This friend in front of him was really hard to get along with. Wei Kingdom's Crown Prince. I don't interact with the Merry Pavilion, so they don't know my identity. However, it's not hard for me to pass on information to them. Second Fatty Jean answered 3 questions. Is Brother Lu the same as you? Yes, even the Merry Pavilion doesn't know his identity. The sky-flipping seal was used by you guys to test my abilities, right? Yes. It was obvious that Chu Yang's luck wasn't that good to meet someone who could become bosom buddies. Is there really such a thing as the sky-flipping seal? Yes. So, it's true that Brother Lu's grandfather died just now. It's true. He didn't lie at all. He did it perfectly. Chu Yang definitely wasn't praising him. Instead, he was filled with killing intent. Second Fatty Jean started to sweat. He told the truth, but Lu Haoran didn't. What was Lu Haoran compared to him? Second Fatty Jean was the good guy, but he pushed Lu Haoran into the fire pit. Thus, Second Fatty Jean felt that he had to explain for Lu Haoran. I was pretending to be serious because I wanted to tell you the truth, but the decision was in my hands. So you're saying that my luck isn't too good or too bad, right? Chu Yang said indifferently. However, you two have moved me for nothing. What else could Second Fatty Jean say? Can I trouble Brother Jean to arrange my battle to become famous? The battle to become famous? Second Fatty Jean narrowed his eyes. Are you sure? Why not? Chu Yang sneered. It's important to become famous early. Do you understand? There were people who wanted to kill him all day long, whether it was in the Five Elements sect or outside the Five Elements sect. All kinds of schemes, and conspiracies were now shrouding him. There was no end to it, and there was no moment of peace. The matter of Second Fatty Jean and Lu Haoran made Chu Yang's hair stand on end. If these two gained his trust and stabbed him in the back, then he wouldn't even know how he died. The human heart was unpredictable. His patience had reached its limit and he was furious. If not for the fact that his current cultivation level was too low, Chu Yang would have killed his way out and killed all his enemies. Be it the Five Elements sect, the Soul Devourer clan, or the Wei Nation, he would have wiped them all out. He could kill one person in 10 steps, but he couldn't do it even if he was 1,000 miles away. From now on, his name should be known by many people in the Eastern Wilderness continent. When his name resounded throughout this continent, he could tear apart and destroy everything. When he was angry, the heavens and earth would change color. Let's see who would dare to kill him. Today was his first stop to become famous, and Emperor Island would be his second stop. Second Fatty Jean felt Chu Yang's killing intent at this moment, and he couldn't help but shiver. For a moment, he felt as if a killing god had awakened in Chu Yang's body. The entire room seemed to have frozen, and he could sense that his surroundings were covered in the color of blood. It was as if the killing god was slaughtering all living things, dyeing the heavens and earth red. Such a terrifying killing intent. Second Fatty Jean couldn't help but have this feeling. Perhaps telling the truth today and choosing to treat Chu Yang as a friend was the best and most important decision he had made in his life. Good. Chapter 601. Outside the room, Wu Guanqi continued to yell, Second Fatty Jean, are you a coward? Humph, you coward. Wu Guanqi, who are you calling a coward? Who are you calling a coward? Second Fatty Jin's fat body walked out from the hole in the room and appeared in front of the crowd. Wu Guanqi, I'll bet with you. Show me your moves. Second Fatty Jean, you can't hold it in anymore, can you? Wu Guanqi laughed coldly. Simple, those below the soul reincarnation realm will win 2 out of 3 rounds. Life and death is up to fate. Humph. Second Fatty Jean snorted coldly as a mocking smile appeared on his fat and round face. It's just a mere black and white dragon rice, and you want to win 2 out of 3 rounds? Are you a beggar or am I a beggar? Haha, you're right. Wu Guanqi laughed wildly. Second Fatty Jean, since you said so, I'll satisfy you. I'll bet a soul reincarnation realm artifact for the next 2 rounds. Boom. The room that Wu Guanqi was in was also destroyed. A bronze bell and a blood-red longsword appeared in the air above the auction house, emitting a shocking energy wave. Ring. 9 dragons appeared on the bell and coiled around it. The roar of the 9 dragons resounded through the 9 heavens, and as the sound waves rippled out, a light barrier appeared from the bell and enveloped the area, forming a domain. The 9 dragons swam within the domain, and they could both attack and defend. Clang! 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 The blood-red sword vibrated as it emitted a terrifying killing intent. With the blood-red sword as the center, the surroundings were dyed in a scarlet-red color. The scarlet-red color was so thick that it seemed like blood could drip from it. Kill, 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 kill. As the blood sword vibrated, everyone present could only hear the word kill in their ears. In their perception, they could see heads rolling, limbs shattering, and blood flowing like a river. A river of blood flowing like a river. Some of the people with lower cultivations were frightened by the blood-red sword and screamed. Second Fatty Jean. Wu Guanqi's voice sounded again. This is the 9 dragon bell and the 7 kill sword. If you win all 3 rounds, not only will the black and white dragon rice be yours, but the 9 dragon bell and the 7 kill sword will also be yours. However, if you lose, not only do you have to bark like a dog, you also have to crawl to me like a dog and crawl under my crotch. Do you dare to bet? The entire crowd was silent. This gamble was not small at all. It was obvious that the 9 dragons bell and 7 slaughtering sword were extremely powerful objects. They were not ordinary soul reincarnation realm artifact. This should be a high-grade soul reincarnation artifact, and not a mid-grade or low-grade one. Second Fatty Jin's pupils involuntarily shrank. Such a precious treasure made him realize that the other party was planning to kill Chu Yang in the battle. They seemed to have changed their plans. While Second Fatty Jin was hesitating, Chu Yang's voice sounded in his mind. Such a generous offer, it's like he's giving you a treasure. Accept him. He no longer hesitated and roared, Fine, I accept. Wu Guanqi, I'll make you swallow all your arrogance back. Do you have the ability? You'll soon know if I have the ability or not. As the two bickered, Lady Yi opened her mouth and said, Young Marquises, since you've decided to bet, then I'll start preparing. In the end, she didn't forget to tease them. Also, young Marquises, please remember to compensate for the damage you've done to the Merry Pavilion. The Merry Pavilion is a small business and can't afford to be tormented by the two young Marquises. She was abnormally relaxed. Her slender jade-like hand pointed at the air. Instantly, the formation there shone, as if a huge sun had risen. It was extremely dazzling, and almost everyone present couldn't see anything. Amidst the rumbling, a huge stage covered by a light barrier rose from the ground and appeared in front of everyone. There were bloodstains on the stage, and there seemed to be traces of black gas within. It was as if vengeful spirits were wandering within. It was filled with resentment and ferocity, as if it was a small version of hell. Chapter 602. Whoosh! As soon as the fighting ring appeared, a golden light cut through the void. With a loud bang, it landed heavily on the fighting ring. Immediately, the life and death arena began to tremble, as if it was about to be trampled into pieces. With a buzzing sound, the light of the formation shone brightly, stabilizing the arena. Hiss! Many people present couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The fighting ring was extremely sturdy. Who knew how many life and death battles had been held on it, but they had never seen anyone who could shake the fighting ring so easily. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a head of golden hair landed in the center of the arena. His pupils were vertical and golden. They were extremely sharp and filled with wildness. When his gaze swept out, it was like a golden storm of swords and sabers, slashing over to kill. He was more than 2 meters tall and had golden muscles all over his body that glowed with a metallic luster. There seemed to be horned dragons swimming inside his body, full of explosive power. His muscular and powerful body made many people feel a great sense of oppression just by standing there. They even felt that a barbaric world was unfolding before their eyes. Screech, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a high-pitched screech. The sound wave formed a visible shockwave that rushed out. It was as if the sound split the 9 heavens and poured into people's ears. Their eardrums hurt as if they were about to be torn apart. In the midst of such a high-pitched cry, the golden middle-aged man's head shockingly turned into the head of a rock. Immediately, the demonic aura around his body surged, and the wildness of his body became even more explosive, impacting everyone present. His golden pupils also became sharper, and a golden vortex appeared in them. Anyone who looked at it would immediately feel dizzy, as if their souls were about to leave their bodies and be sucked in. Big-winged gold rock bird. This middle-aged man was actually a big-winged gold rock bird? It's over, Second Fatty Gene will lose for sure. At this moment, many people were certain that Second Fatty Gene would lose for sure. His opponent's attack was too terrifying. It was actually a big-winged gold rock bird. The big-winged gold rock bird had the speed of a rock and was extremely fast. It was a demonic beast. Not only did it have an extremely strong physical body, its strength was also extremely terrifying. In other words, no matter if it was speed or strength, humans could not compare to the big-winged gold rock bird. This is a duel for those below the soul wheel realm. Please take the test. Although Miss Yi's calm voice was not loud, it resounded throughout the entire place. At the same time, it was as if he had saved everyone from the claws of a big-winged gold rock. Many people couldn't help but let out a long breath of cold air. Some even broke out in cold sweat and almost collapsed. Powerful, too powerful. This big-winged gold rock was so powerful, who could be its opponent? Second Fatty Jin's pupils couldn't help but tremble as he looked at the rock-headed, human-bodied large-winged gold rock on the stage. He had never imagined that Wu Guanqi would be able to send out a great demon like this gold rock. A demonic beast like the golden-winged rock, especially one so powerful, was definitely not something that Wu Guanqi could control. Especially when Second Fatty Jin felt that this golden-winged rock could clearly devour a person's soul. Thus, he immediately thought of the Soul Devourer clan. The Soul Devourer clan and the Merry Pavilion have formed an alliance after scheming against each other? Second Fatty Jin's heart shrunk and sank. The Soul Devourer clan and the Merry Pavilion had formed an alliance. This meant that they were planning to kill Chu Yang in the duel. This way, even if the Five Elements sect investigated, they would be able to wash their hands clean. After all, what else could you say if you died in the duel? You could only blame yourself for not knowing your place and being too arrogant. Chapter 603. 1. The gigantic golden hand of the great winged golden rock landed on the stone monument, causing it to tremble violently. From the top of the monument, a surge of golden light shot up into the skies, reaching the top of the monument in an instant, stopping right below the Soul Wheel Realm indicator, as though it was about to surpass it. 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm, a great demon that was about to step into the Soul Wheel Realm. Everyone present couldn't help but be shocked. At this time, the sound of footsteps could be heard amidst the silence. Everyone couldn't help but look over immediately. They saw a slender young man with a little beast with 5-colored fur on his shoulder. He stepped into the void and walked towards the battle arena. This is Second Fatty Jin's friend? Who else could it be? He's walking leisurely, so leisurely. His opponent is the big-winged gold rock, the peak of the 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm. He dares to look down on him like this? Everyone was shocked. Chu Yang was too calm. He walked slowly in the air like a floating cloud. Ignorant. Even at this time, he still doesn't forget to pretend. These words came from the Sun family's son Yangon. Naturally, his voice was very soft, and only those close to him could hear it. Sun Zi sure couldn't help but frown. Brother Chu, you might not lose. Sun Lele didn't agree. Won't lose? He's dead for sure. Their third uncle, the one-eyed middle-aged man, made a judgment. They weren't the only ones sizing up Chu Yang. Miss Yi, the Wei Kingdom's third princess, and the others were also sizing up Chu Yang. At this moment, there was a white-clothed youth beside the Wei Kingdom's third princess. He held a wine gourd in his hand and took a sip from time to time. His expression was calm as he looked at Chu Yang indifferently. Gold Rock Holy Sun, what do you think of this Chu Yang? The Wei Kingdom's third princess was wearing a mask. Looking at the calm Chu Yang, she couldn't help but frown. Being able to kill someone at the 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm while at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm, of course, he's extraordinary. The young man in white took a sip of wine and said with a smile, however, this is as far as he can go. He should be honored to be able to make both of us join hands. Gold Rock Holy Sun, are you so sure? Of course I'm sure, because I'm the Gold Rock Saint. In that case, my people don't need to prepare, right? The third princess of Wei Kingdom laughed. Yes. The young man in white answered with certainty. In the field, all eyes fell on Chu Yang. Due to Chu Yang's calmness, everyone was very curious and speculated. They felt that if Chu Yang didn't have the slightest ability, he definitely wouldn't dare to face such a ferocious big-winged gold rock bird. Chu Yang finally landed on the battle arena. Immediately, Miss Yi's voice rang out, "Young Master Chu, would you please check your cultivation? Are they trying to determine my cultivation level? It's logical. As expected, it's a good method. I really can't refuse." Chu Yang was well aware of all this. He sneered in his heart, "Since you want to understand, I'll let you understand properly. I hope you won't be too shocked later." He wasn't afraid. After obtaining the black and white dragon rice, he could immediately break through to the 9th level of the Chi Soul Realm and then directly enter the Ascending Soul Realm. As an array formation master, he had gained great enlightenment from the sensual pleasures of the merry house, and his state of mind had improved. In addition, he had already obtained the mental cultivation method of the gold lineage. He felt that breaking through the barrier of heaven and stepping into the 4th level array formation was just around the corner. His realm was changing so quickly, how could it be that they could guess and grasp? Chu Yang's hand landed directly on the testing stone tablet. Chapter 604. Pop! Chu Yang's hand landed on the testing stone tablet. Immediately, circles and circles of ripples spread out from the tablet. A ray of light shot up rapidly, but when it reached the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm on the tablet, it stopped abruptly. 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. Only the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. This Chu Yang was only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. Facing someone at the peak of the 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm, there was a difference of 1 level and 11 levels. With such a huge gap, how could he dare to stand out? How could he be so calm? The crowd didn't immediately go into an uproar. Instead, they all looked at the testing stone tablet. They felt that they might have seen wrongly, or that there was a problem with the testing stone tablet. Second Fatty Jin's gaze also landed on the testing stone tablet. His eyes were filled with shock. He had heard about Chu Yang's achievements from Big Fatty Jin, but when he saw it with his own eyes, the impact he felt was completely different. Lady Yi, the auctioneer Zhou San, the third princess of Wei Kingdom, and the Gold Rock Holy Sun all looked at the testing stone tablet. Everyone was waiting for the final result. However, there was no change on the testing stone tablet. The ray of light remained at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. It couldn't go up, and it definitely couldn't go down. It was as steady as a dog. This testing stone tablet is really accurate. Chu Yang praised the testing stone tablet. He admitted that he was only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. Boom! The entire auction house, the entire merry house, was turned upside down. Everyone was completely shocked. Their shock, astonishment, shock, disbelief, and all kinds of doubts exploded out in an instant. This Chu Yang is really only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm? He's only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. Facing a 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm, he's still so arrogant and calm, as if he's mature? Is he crazy? Even if he's crazy, Second Fatty Jean shouldn't be crazy, right? Second Fatty Jean was actually a little crazy right now. Chu Yang was actually only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul Realm. I think this Chu Yang knows that he's going to die, so he's putting on an act. If one's heart is like dead ashes, one can be at peace like this if one throws caution to the wind. But looking at him, do you think he has the slightest bit of despair? At this moment, Chu Yang's face curved into an evil smile as he faced the audience with a smile. No matter how one looked at it, he did not look like he had lost all hope. Everyone could see his arrogance and unscrupulousness. Is he really only at the 7th tier of the Chi Soul stage, the 7th star of the Yuan realm? Miss Yi and the Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess were both indescribably shocked. Seeing it once was better than hearing about it 100 times. They were really shocked. Seeing Chu Yang's indifferent expression, the Gold Rock Holy Sun couldn't help but snort coldly. He was extremely displeased. He really looks down on everyone in the world. Does he think that he's the only genius in the world? How foolish! I'm only at the 7th tier of the Chi Soul realm. Chu Yang smiled at Miss Yi and said, Miss Yi, do you still have any questions? I see that you're very shocked. Did I scare you? Young Master Chu, you really know how to joke. Miss Yi's smile was very forced. If it was like the new information that Chu Yang could kill someone at the 9th tier of the Ascending Soul Realm with his current cultivation, then this Chu Yang would really scare people to death. Miss Yi, you're very beautiful. How about cheering for me later? Miss Yi's expression froze again. Chu Yang still had the mood to take advantage of her at this time? What was his heart made of? Chapter 605. Bang! A loud noise resounded in the arena, attracting everyone's attention. That rock-headed, human-bodied golden-winged Peng was furious because of Chu Yang's disdain. Its golden pupils were filled with wildness. It looked at Chu Yang with its golden gaze, and immediately, countless golden feathers formed a rain of swords and pierced towards him. At the same time, it said in a low voice, Since the test is over, come and die. I don't have time to waste with a piece of trash at the 7th layer of the Chi Soul realm. Bang! The golden-winged gold rock bird's attack was blocked by Chu Yang's hand and crushed it. He then sneered, Feathered beast, who are you calling a piece of trash? Feathered beast. Everyone was shocked. Chu Yang didn't take the golden-winged gold rock bird seriously at all. Piece of trash, I'm going to eat you raw. Screech! The rock roared angrily. The golden-winged gold rock bird was about to attack, but Yi intervened. Please control yourself. Then, she said, in a life-and-death battle, life and death are up to fate. Do you understand? I already know. The golden-winged gold rock bird said coldly, but Chu Yang was too lazy to say anything. Since you already know, please sign the life-and-death agreement. Chu Yang couldn't help but feel relieved. She was really thoughtful. If he signed the life-and-death agreement, even if he died, the 5 Elements sect wouldn't be able to pursue the matter. The two signed the life-and-death agreement. You two, your battle can start now. That Miss Yi immediately retreated from the battle arena. Piece of trash, how do you want to die? Chu Yang sneered, Feathered beast, you still need to learn etiquette. Remember the importance of seniority. You are too disrespectful. I'm going to eat you raw. The golden-winged gold rock bird was enraged by the words feathered beast. At the same time it roared, Piece of trash, I'll let you see how I'm going to eat you bite by bite. I'll let you be scared to death when you see me as a ghost. Whoosh! The big-winged gold rock immediately made its move. It turned into a streak of golden light and tore through the void, immediately pouncing towards Chu Yang like an eagle trying to catch a chick. Humph! Chu Yang let out a cold snort. He used his innate earth physique to control the profound meaning of weight, and the gravity changed abruptly. Bang! The big-winged gold rock bird was caught off guard and was pulled down by the sudden increase in gravity. It fell down and smashed into the ring. One. Then, it saw Chu Yang looking down at it from above and punching it. Shockingly, when Chu Yang punched out, his true essence formed a mountain, wrapped in arcs of light and smashed down. Trash. So what if you can visualize the mountain martial spirit? I can split the heavens. What can a mere mountain do to me? The big-winged gold rock bird let out a long cry. Its human hand transformed into a rock's claw. Its 4 claws were like 4 heavenly blades. They fiercely slashed down. Suddenly, 4 heavenly motes appeared on the mountain. At this moment, a strange change occurred. Rumble! The sound of the great river reverberated. Immediately, everyone saw the 4 heavenly motes on the mountain. The 4 great rivers were like 4 huge dragons, roaring and bursting out. The gate of heaven was broken, and the river was opened. The blue water flowed to the east. The river martial spirit from before appeared in front of everyone again. The great river rushed through the gate of heaven and split the mountain. The roar of a giant spirit shook the 2 mountains, and the flood gushed out of the East Sea. No, the big-winged gold rock bird had never expected that its rock claw would have such a change. It was caught off guard and was bombarded by the 4 great rivers. In an instant, it felt that the 4 river gods had pierced through its body. Then, a slender hand reached out and grabbed its inner core. Chu Yang. Crack, crack, crack. Chu Yang directly ate the inner core of the big-winged gold rock bird. The true essence in his body formed the all-creation great millstone and crushed the inner core, making cracking sound. Feathered beast, who did you say you were going to eat bit by bit? Bang! The big-winged gold rock bird fell down heavily with shock, fear, and disbelief. It could no longer answer. The whole place was dead silent. Chapter 606. Next. Chu Yang's cold and indifferent voice echoed in the auction hall and in the merry pavilion. The whole audience was so quiet that even though his voice wasn't loud, it could still be heard very clearly. It could also be heard very far. It was as if the cicadas were chirping in the forest, and the birds were chirping in the mountain. Are you shocked? Then I'll give you time to be shocked. Chu Yang sneered in his heart as he stood on the stage with his arms crossed. The reaction of the whole place was very lively. Among the 4 members of the Sun family, Sun Yangon, who thought that Chu Yang was definitely going to die, repeatedly belittled Chu Yang in his heart. Every time he opened his mouth, he would speak unfavorably of Chu Yang. At this moment, his mouth, which was full of contempt for Chu Yang, was like the mouth of a prehistoric giant beast. It was as if he was going to swallow the world. His eyes, which were full of contempt for Chu Yang, were also protruding like the eyes of a dead fish. His expression was extremely comical. The one-eyed middle-aged man, who had concluded that Chu Yang was definitely going to die, suddenly opened his blind eye in anger. It was as if he could not stand the fact that his other eye was blind. Therefore, even if he was blind, he had to stand out at this moment. Sun Lele and Sun Shirshir were also extremely shocked. Miss Yi and the auctioneer, Zhou San, were also like stone sculptures at this moment, vivid and lifelike. In the dark, the gold rock Holy Sun's playful smile froze on his face. The curve of his mouth was very obvious. He was originally drinking from the gourd in his hand, but the wine gourd stopped at the edge of his mouth. From the wine gourd, the fine wine poured down like the Milky Way from the 9th heaven. It hit his chest, soaking his clothes, and the fragrance of the wine permeated the air. The 3rd princess of the Wei Kingdom had already exposed her identity as a girl. Although she was wearing a mask, her perfect curves were exposed. Just by looking at her curves, she was definitely an extremely beautiful woman. She was so shocked that she even stopped using her body transformation technique. Crash. After a moment of dead silence, the entire place suddenly exploded like a mirror. It was as if a world gate had opened, and creatures from another world poured out and entered this world. The auction house, the merry house in front of them, and everything that they saw, they had never heard of or seen before. They cried out in shock. The clamor of the whole place was like the raging waves in the ocean, rising and falling one after another. The big-winged gold rock bird has the upper hand in terms of strength and speed. It's eaten just like that. The big-winged gold rock bird said it was going to eat Chu Yang, but in the end, Chu Yang dug out its nidin and swallowed it. This Chu Yang is too cruel. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? It completely defies common sense. Chu Yang and the big-winged gold rock were 11 minor realms apart, so it was like a 6-year-old child killing a 17-year-old boy with a raise of his hand. The mountain was split open and the river suddenly jumped out. How could such a transformation be done? It's simply unbelievable. That's right. The big-winged gold rock bird was probably caught off guard, so it was directly killed by Chu Yang. Even if the big-winged gold rock bird was prepared, it was still beaten to death. There was no lack of people with good eyesight in the auction house. They said, "This is not a simple river suddenly bursting out, but a mountain suddenly transforming into a river. I have never seen such a method, such a transformation of true Yuan skill. Especially since these two are natural martial spirits, they are incomparably vigorous and vast. The transformation of the two is extremely difficult, it should be impossible to do. This is definitely not the most shocking thing." Someone added, "The transformation of the mountain and the river did not happen all of a sudden. The mountain did not disappear, it was just constantly transforming into the river. The two seamlessly connected and merged into one. This means that the mountain martial spirit and the river martial spirit merged together. The two true Yuan skills merged together. How could the big-winged gold rock bird not die? The transformation of true Yuan skill was very difficult. For example, the transformation of true Yuan into a tiger and then halfway through, it suddenly transformed into a lion. This might be possible, but it was very difficult. There were not many people who could do it because it involved many things. First of all, in the visualization, the tiger had to suddenly become a lion. Second, if the tiger was formed by true Yuan, the true Yuan had to be readjusted and even reconstructed to transform into a lion. This was like throwing out a stone and suddenly turning the stone into a throwing knife. It was impossible. In particular, it wasn't as simple as turning a mere stone into a flying dagger. Instead, it was turning a huge mountain into a mighty river. Chapter 607. How on earth did he do it? In the dark, the Wei Kingdom's third princess spoke. She found it hard to imagine, and this was not only her confusion, but also everyone else's confusion. At this moment, she only realized that her voice was female when she spoke. She also realized that she had exposed her female figure, and all her concealment had collapsed. "I don't know." The Gold Rock Saint was in a daze. He really didn't know. He had already picked up the wine gourd in his hand, and the wine no longer poured on his chest. However, his clothes were soaked, making him look extremely miserable. Just a moment ago, he was still very confident that Chu Yang would definitely die. The Gold Rock Saint was very confident in himself and his companion, the big-winged gold rock. However, when his confident big-winged gold rock turned into a dead bird, his confidence made him feel extremely miserable. How could a mountain suddenly turn into a river when using a true essence skill? Such a transformation required too much true essence and spiritual power. It was impossible to achieve. How could a visualized mountain martial spirit be instantly switched to a river martial spirit? How could a mountain constructed with true essence be instantly switched to a river? The switching of visualized martial spirits and true essence had to be synchronized. If the synchronization was not good, the connection would be sluggish, and the power would be greatly reduced. If the synchronization was not good, it would directly collapse. This was already beyond the Gold Rock Saint's imagination, but Chu Yang actually went one step further and perfectly fused the mountain martial spirit and the river martial spirit, and perfectly fused the two true essence skills. Between the two, both the mountain martial spirit and the river martial spirit were natural martial spirits, and they were incomparably vast. How could such a huge volume be switched? How could it be seamlessly linked and perfectly fused? Therefore, the Gold Rock Saint really didn't know. How could they know that Chu Yang's spirit soul third revolution? Not to mention that the mountain had turned into a river, this was only the second revolution. Chu Yang could still perform the third revolution. This was the power of the spirit soul third revolution. Are you guys done being shocked? Chu Yang waited for a while before opening his mouth again. His tone was incomparably savage. Just now, he seemed to be overlooking everyone like a god, watching everyone make a fuss about nothing, watching everyone make a fool of themselves. Have you reacted yet? Another sentence was uttered. This time, the tone was even more mocking, even sharper, and even more disdainful. The only thing Chu Yang didn't do was point at the crowd and say, "Everyone here, you are all trash." Everyone was speechless, as if they had been choked. They were unable to refute. Chu Yang was just so godly just now. Can you guys hurry up? Don't waste my time. I don't have time to see your shocked expressions. This provocation was too extreme, directly stabbing into one's heart, almost able to directly stab one to death. The crowd didn't know what Wu Guanqi's reaction would be, but it definitely wouldn't be good. Not only was it bad, it was simply terrible. Wu Guanqi was the most trembling. His entire body was trembling, and his eyes were filled with fear. He was crazily screaming in his heart, "What kind of monster is this? What kind of person did my father offend?" On the surface, he came to the Merry Pavilion specifically to insult Second Fatty Jean, but in reality, it was his father who asked him to come. He didn't know the specifics, but he knew that he had to insult Second Fatty Jean and Chu Yang. He had to insult them until they couldn't hide or retreat. Wu Guanqi did as he was told, but the result was very shocking. "Wu Guanqi, are you done being shocked?" Second Fatty Jin's mocking voice also resounded through the crowd, but in reality, he was also incomparably shocked. He knew that Chu Yang's strength was shocking, but he never imagined that it would be so shocking. With a raise of his hand, he killed the 9th level ascending soul tier big-winged gold rock bird. "Wu Guanqi, are you done?" "Wu Guanqi, I don't have time to see your shocked expression." Chapter 608. Second Fatty Jean, you've only won one match. Don't be too arrogant. Wu Guanqi appeared fierce, but everyone could tell that his voice was trembling. That Miss Yi, the third princess of the Wei Kingdom, and the Golden Rock Saint's son couldn't help but frown. Wouldn't they be exposed? Wu Guanqi's unbearable behavior made them unhappy, but there was nothing they could do. They still needed Wu Guanqi to support them. However, they still interfered in the end. Without Wu Guanqi's order, they directly sent people out. The big-winged gold rock bird was the method of the Gold Rock Holy Sun. This time, it was the method of the Wei Kingdom's third princess. "I'll take you on." Boom. There was an explosion in the air, accompanied by a gust of wind. A tall and burly young man landed heavily on the arena with a thud. Chu Yang immediately glanced at him and judged his strength. He immediately felt the aura of a formation seal from the other party. At the same time, the tall and burly young man was also judging Chu Yang's strength. He also felt the aura of a formation seal from Chu Yang. Although Chu Yang hid it very well, how could he hide it as a formation master? He couldn't help but frown. The requirements for the battle must be below the soul wheel realm. Please come over for the test. Miss E carried out every procedure meticulously, afraid that the slightest mistake would cause the outcome of the battle to be questioned. The tall and burly young man's large hand immediately landed on the testing stone tablet. Instantly, a purple ray of light shot down from the stone tablet. It was like a great rock rising with the wind, shooting straight up into the sky. It instantly reached the peak of the 9th level of the ascending soul realm, but it didn't rush up and reach the soul wheel realm. The peak of the 9th level of the ascending soul realm, another peak of the 9th level of the ascending soul realm. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but stare at the arena without blinking. Previously, Chu Yang had used his miraculous methods to kill the big-winged gold rock bird. But no matter what, the big-winged gold rock bird was caught off guard and was unable to display its abilities. Now, this person was also in the 9th layer of the ascending soul realm. With the precedent of the big-winged gold rock bird, he would definitely be extremely cautious. He should be able to display the strength of the 9th layer of the ascending soul realm. This could test Chu Yang completely. In a head-on clash, they would see if Chu Yang's true battle prowess could crush a 9th-level ascending soul realm cultivator. Do you know that life and death is up to fate? Miss E spoke again, and the tall and burly young man responded with his actions, directly writing his name on the life and death contract. All right, you may begin. As soon as she left, the giant of the merry pavilion seemed to have tensed up. The entire crowd suddenly fell silent once more. Every single pair of eyes stared fixedly at the arena, afraid that they would miss the slightest detail. 1. The tall and burly young man didn't wait for Chu Yang to make any moves, and took the initiative to attack. He took out an item, and it immediately emitted a powerful fluctuation. Amidst the dazzling light, a light barrier suddenly emerged from him, and immediately enveloped the entire arena. At this moment, everyone could clearly see the item in his hand. It was a formation diagram. Formation diagrams were portable formations. Formation masters would set up various kinds of formations within them. Once taken out, there was no need to set up a formation seal. Just by relying on the formation diagram, one could immediately form a formation. However, it wasn't easy to refine a formation diagram. Formation masters who could refine a formation diagram had to be at least a 6th-stage formation master. The tall and burly young man actually had a formation diagram in his hand. The formation formed by the formation diagram was almost equivalent to a domain. Within the formation, the tall and burly young man occupied an unparalleled advantage. This was equivalent to his cultivation directly rising to the soul wheel realm. Chapter 609. Array Diagram. It's actually an array diagram. With an array diagram, it's a battle between a soul reincarnation realm and a 7th-level Chi soul realm. No matter how amazing Chu Yang is, there's no doubt about the outcome. This is a battle between soul reincarnation realm cultivators. Isn't it a little despicable to use an array diagram? Since it's a battle, then let's use our own abilities and methods. There's only a matter of victory and defeat, a matter of stupidity. There's no such thing as despicable. That's right. Life and death is up to fate. He should have known before the battle. The crowd, who were holding their breaths in anticipation of the battle, instantly went into an uproar. They were all shocked by the array diagram. Some felt that it was unfair to use the array diagram, but more felt that it was a battle. Since it was a battle, there was nothing that couldn't be done. The entire battle was in an uproar. At the same time, almost everyone thought that Chu Yang was bound to lose the moment the formation came out. This Chu Yang is dead meat. Let's see how he can be so arrogant. In the crowd, Sun Yangon shouted excitedly. Sun Sunshire's face was gloomy, and he immediately cut ties with Sun Yangon. Sun Lele was also extremely dissatisfied. After all, Chu Yang was their savior. Third Princess, you're really something. You actually have such a rare item like an array diagram. The Gold Rock Saint, Eugene too, was also a little surprised. Then, he laughed. He couldn't help but have a higher opinion of the Wei Kingdom's third princess. Gold Rock Saint, you're overpraising me. This array diagram might not be able to deal with a demon like Chu Yang. Although she said so, the joy in her voice revealed her true feelings. This is bad. How can a soul reincarnation realm cultivator be a match for a 7th level Chi soul realm cultivator? Second Fatty Jin's expression changed drastically. Haha. Wu Guanqi's unbridled laughter resounded throughout the entire audience. He had been too repressed before. He was so scared that he wanted to die. He had actually offended such a monstrous genius like Chu Yang. Now that the tables had turned, all kinds of emotions were released. Second Fatty Jean, are you dumbfounded? He sneered. It's too early for you to be happy just now. Let's see how you can still be so rampant now. Just wait to collect the corpse of this bullshit Chu Yang, then act like a dog and wag your tail at me. Ha ha. His laughter was filled with delight. Not to mention the reactions of the others, Chu Yang, who was covered by the array, immediately felt as if he had been locked in a prison. With the sound of the iron door being closed, he was completely isolated from the outside world. He was trapped in a small prison, almost suffocating. Then, the suppression of the formation became even more intense. He felt as if someone had covered his head and face with a sack and stuffed him into the sack. After a round of punches and kicks, he was about to sink to the bottom of the river. Helpless, powerless, and helpless, he could only allow himself to be slaughtered. At this moment, he was a little panicked. Origin Martial Third Revolution. Third Circulation of Qi Soul. Chu Yang burst out with his full strength. It was as if he had torn apart the sack and escaped from the prison. But he found that he had fallen into a quagmire. It was extremely strenuous to even move a little. Heavenly power. Terrain. At this moment, his mental power also completely erupted. He controlled the heavenly power and terrain of the array to resist the suppression of the array. Suddenly, the feeling of being trapped in a swamp completely disappeared. It was as if he had successfully escaped from the prison and temporarily regained his freedom. However, although he had successfully escaped from the prison, he was still caught in the net of the law. His nerves were tense at every moment. He was like a snake in a cup of water, and every bush and tree was an enemy. Chapter 610. Chu Yang, can you break free? The tall and burly young man's expression changed when he realized that Chu Yang had actually broken free from the shackles of the array. However, he immediately became fierce and roared, "Freeze for me!" Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the formation, the void suddenly buzzed. Immediately, Chu Yang felt as if he was suddenly placed in the deep sea. A great pressure, like water pressure, squeezed him from all directions, trying to squeeze him alive. Boom! He struggled violently, and the heavenly momentum and terrain in the formation were completely released by him. In an instant, he seemed to have become a creature in the deep sea. The pressure that was squeezing him from all directions was suddenly reduced greatly. They were both formation masters, but the tall young man had the formation map. It was as if he was in charge of the law, and Chu Yang was a lawyer who was proficient in the law. He defended himself in the court, using law against law. His voice was loud and his mouth was flowing like a river. He had a glib tongue. The two began to fight fiercely. In the confrontation of spirit and formation, Chu Yang was not at a disadvantage at all. The battle between them was like a battle of words in the court. For a while, the tall young man was unable to do anything to Chu Yang. The two were locked in a stalemate. So what if you're a formation master? In this formation, I am the heavens, the earth, and the supreme ruler. You're nothing. If I want you to freeze, you'll freeze. If I want you to die, you'll die. The tall young man was not only the judge in the court, but also the supreme ruler of the country where the judge was from. Since the law could not severely punish Chu Yang, he directly used the army and the violent organization to completely erase Chu Yang. He activated the formation map to the extreme. The formation map buzzed and burst out with endless light. At this time, all of Chu Yang's array formations had lost their effectiveness. Just as the tall and sturdy youth had said, he was a genius in array formations. However, he did not panic. The inheritance of the golden origin appeared in his mind one by one. Sky-flipping seal. Sky-crushing seal. Heaven-patching seal. In his eyes, the formation formed by the formation diagram seemed to be the beginning of the world, and he was the first living creature of the world. He was incomparably powerful, overturning the heavens for joy, destroying the world and looking at the chaos. Therefore, if you are the heavens, then I will break the heavens. If you are this land, I will break it. Sky-flipping seal. Rumble. When Chu Yang used the overturning heaven seal, everyone suddenly felt as if the array diagram was about to flip over, the array formation was about to flip over, the arena was about to flip over, and even the entire world was about to flip over. They felt as if the world was turning upside down, as if the end of the world had arrived. They couldn't help but be horrified. What kind of technique was this? It was actually so terrifying. Rumble. Half of the entire fighting ring suddenly flipped over. The light shield formed by the array formation directly flipped over. The array formation also flipped over. The tall and burly young man was also flipped over. Caught off guard, his head directly hit the fighting ring. Bang! A large hand slapped down, and his entire body directly exploded into pieces. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, and he couldn't be more dead. After that, the scene disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Everyone looked at the pool of blood on the fighting ring, and all of them were speechless. The tall and burly young man, whose cultivation was comparable to the soul wheel realm, actually fought against Chu Yang, who was merely at the 7th layer of the Chi Soul realm. The final result was actually, he died and Chu Yang lived. Chapter 6:11. The world was silent, as if everything had been destroyed after the apocalypse. Everything returned to chaos, and only chaos was surging, waiting for the birth of a new order and the opening of a new world. Chi. Chi. In the silence, rays of light and shadow shot out from Chu Yang's body. His palm first released a suction force, sucking the black and white dragon rice into his hand. At the same time, the rays of light and shadow wrapped around the 9 dragons' bell and the 7 kills sword, taking them in as well. Crack! Crack! The true essence formed a millstone, and it made cracking sounds as it spun. Chu Yang immediately erased the marks on the 9 dragons' bell and the 7 kills sword, and then inserted his own mark. Boom! The 9 dragon bell hung upside down and suspended itself above Chu Yang's head. Streams of dragon-shaped airflow fell down from the bell, firmly protecting him. Clang! 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 At the same time, the 7 kills sword was also completely under his control. As if a treasure sword had met a wise master, it trembled and made sounds of joy. At this moment, the whole place was still silent, and no one even noticed his series of actions. They all stared blankly at the battle arena. There was no reaction at all, which made Chu Yang feel like he had punched the air with all his strength. He won 2 out of 3, he won. He was still worried that the merry pavilion would go back on their words or make things difficult for him, but it seemed unnecessary. How is this possible? This seemed to be the first intelligence born in chaos. The Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess, who was hiding in the dark, no longer sounded complacent. Instead, there was chaos and chaos, as if she had just woken up and her mind was not clear. She had gone through many twists and turns to obtain this diagram, hoping to use it to kill the monster Chu Yang. However, the result was cruel. The gold rock saint was also stunned. His mouth was half closed, and the wine gourd in his hand froze in midair, maintaining his drinking posture. Sky flipping seal, this is the sky flipping seal, it's so terrifying. This was second Fatty Jin's voice. Chu Yang defied the heavens again. The overturning heaven seal displayed by Chu Yang, no matter how he felt, Chu Yang's overturning heaven seal was far superior to the overturning heaven seal of that hypocrite Lu Haoran. As for Chu Yang's actions, he naturally noticed them, but he pretended not to notice. With the 9 dragons bell and 7 kill sword in hand, Chu Yang's battle prowess would soar, but he didn't know to what extent. With the 9 dragons bell and the 7 kill sword in hand, the Soul Devourer clan and the Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess would have to be wary if they wanted to kill Chu Yang. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't ruin Chu Yang's plans. Boom! As soon as Chu Yang claimed the 9 dragons bell and the 7 deadly swords as his own, it was as if the world that had come to a standstill began to move again. The entire place burst into an uproar. How is this possible? How is this possible? Doesn't this mean that Chu Yang, who is only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul realm, is able to kill someone at the Soul Will realm? Someone at the Chi Soul realm killing someone at the Soul Will realm, this is simply a fantasy, but it really happened. The formation diagram could form a domain, and that tall youth was already at the peak of the ascending Soul realm. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was at the Soul Will realm, but Chu Yang killed him. This was like an ant killing an elephant, and the shock of the crowd could be imagined. Different people focused on different things, and there were already people discussing the overturning heaven seal. What kind of technique did that Chu Yang use? It's actually so terrifying, as if the sky has turned upside down. To be able to break the domain formed by the formation diagram, this kind of technique is simply unheard of. Formation diagram? When Chu Yang heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He only remembered the black and white dragon rice, 9 dragons bell, and 7 kill sword. Now that he heard this, he suddenly claimed the formation diagram that fell on the battle stage. His action caused the entire crowd to go silent. Chu Yang looked at the crowd disdainfully. Please call me Chu Nitian. As for the formation diagram, I want it. Do any of you have any objections? Fuck, why are you showing off in front of a bunch of dumbfounded geese? Is there any use? They definitely can't feel anything now, and their nerves have long been numbed by you. Chapter 6:12. I'm actually surprised that none of you have any objections. Didn't we agree that one of you wanted to kill me? Chu Yang's words made second Fatty Jin's eyelids twitch. If Chu Yang was number 2, who would dare to say they were number 1 in the world? The 3rd princess of Wei Kingdom and the Golden Rock Saint's son, who were hiding in the dark, couldn't help but feel shocked. They were a little surprised. Chu Yang had actually discovered their actions? However, the two of them thought for a while and understood. The problem was that they had targeted Chu Yang too much during the bet. Whether it was the big-winged gold rock bird or the formation diagram, both of them were not ordinary items. They must have made Chu Yang suspicious. This could also be a test from him. We don't need to pay attention to him? Wei Kingdom's 3rd princess was very decisive. I don't think so. Gold Rock's holy son shook his head. I'm afraid it's not as simple as being suspicious. Martial artists have a natural instinct for danger. While the two of them were hesitating, Chu Yang floated in the air and smiled. Nothing happened. This means that my heavenly martial prowess has deeply impressed you. If that's the case... He cupped his fists towards the crowd and said, everyone. Today, I used a certain admirer as a stepping stone to fiercely make a name for myself. I hope that everyone can help spread my name. Finally, we'll meet again in the future. Chu Yang walked in the air with his hands behind his back. He slowly walked away and started to chant. I'm Chu Kwangren, Phoenix Song's laugh at Kong Chiu. With a green jade staff in hand, I walked towards the happy pavilion. Seeking immortality in the 5 mountains, I'll travel to the famous mountains. After a pause, he suddenly turned back. Don't ask me who Chu Kwangren is. Will you say it's me? If so, you're very uncultured. The crowd was speechless. Who else could it be? Your surname is Chu, you're crazy. Also, are you showing your shamelessness, or are you showing your arrogance? Don't ask me who Kong Chiu is either. He's amazing. You won't understand even if I tell you. Chu Yang once again ridiculed the entire audience. Everyone present, it's not that I want to criticize you, but when it comes to poetry, all of you are trash. I should have been a gifted scholar descended from the literary star. Fighting and killing with all of you is simply a disgrace to the educated. Sigh, this is the misfortune of my generation. Who asked me to be so talented? His sighing appearance made everyone's mouth twitch. This was the Chu Shibao who had just eaten the big-wing gold rock bird's inner core. This was the Chu Nitian who could overturn the heavens with one palm. Many people felt a little confused. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't compare the Chu Yang of a moment ago with the Chu Yang of this moment. At this time, Chu Yang had already left everyone's line of sight. Only the poem he recited could be heard. Jiang Zhuo is obsessed with fame, how would he know the truth of the muddy wine? Turning back to call, the clouds flew and the wind rose. If I don't hate the ancients, I won't see them. If I hate the ancients, I won't see them. Those who know me well, I feel that all of you are even more trash now. But there's no other way. I am a scholar. That's why all of you are envious and jealous of me. Everyone really didn't understand. Previously, they still thought that Chu Yang was provoking them. Now they really didn't understand. It seemed like Chu Yang was really showing off his so-called talent. At the same time, there were immediately voices. They didn't care whether Chu Yang was provoking them or not. Their focus was completely different. Why is this person so despicable? I really want to beat him up. This smile is too despicable. It makes people gnash their teeth in hatred. Suddenly, Chu Yang's voice was heard again, and it gave everyone a big fright. Are you saying that I'm despicable? Many people were shocked to find that Chu Yang had actually stopped outside. Hee hee. Chu Yang's despicable laughter was heard again. There's no other way. I hope all of you can understand. A cultured person like me really has no place to show off. So I can only wrong all of you. This time, everyone was really speechless. Even if you want to argue, you shouldn't be arguing with trash like us. Fortunately, although I'm a loner, I'm a true scholar who is naturally outstanding. Chapter 6:13. Chu Yang's voice had completely disappeared. Everyone's impression of him changed drastically. They no longer felt that he was cruel, inhuman, or unreachable. Instead, they felt that he was a rascal on the streets or a mischievous child at home. His prestige was greatly reduced. Second Fatty Jean was extremely envious of Chu Yang's carefree and willful behavior. This was what it meant to be carefree. After Chu Yang left, he also began to think about his own matters. His small eyes, which were covered by his fat, were rolling around. He immediately came up with an idea. He found the third princess of the Wei Kingdom and immediately jumped out. He immediately questioned, "Third princess, why did you change the plan from probing to a direct battle?" The third princess of the Wei Kingdom was stunned. The Gold Rock Saint was also shocked. He was about to kill, but after hearing Second Fatty Jin's question, he stopped. "Are you questioning me?" The third princess of the Wei Kingdom was very dissatisfied with second Fatty Jin's question. Third princess, what do you think? Second Fatty Jin said fearlessly, and third princess, have you heard of Jean de Pang's saying? Jean de Pang. The third princess of the Wei Kingdom knew who this fatty in front of her was. Naturally, she also knew about Jean de Pang. Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, but be afraid of a pig-like teammate. Second Fatty Jin's gaze fell on the third princess as he spoke. It was obvious who he was targeting. As for Big Fatty Jin's words, Big Fatty Jin always remembered them. That was because he had been provoked, and he had become a pig teammate. At this moment, seeing how the third princess was so angry that she was trembling all over, he felt that this sentence was extremely accurate, and the person who said such a sentence was definitely a talent. Jean-Shan, how dare you? Jean-Shan was second Fatty Jin's real name, and Jean de Pang was Jean Duoduo. As for why it was so, it was unknown how their father's brain worked. Third princess, I'm really going to be impudent today. Second Fatty Jin didn't give up. Third princess, Lu Haoran and I did everything we could to get close to Chu Yang. If the plan hadn't changed, we would have already gained Chu Yang's trust. At that time, I would have stabbed him in the back. Third princess, don't you think it's simple? Stabbing a friend in the back, it was really impossible to guard against. You wouldn't even know how you died. Third princess was speechless. Chu Yang is a monster. I stabbed him once and he didn't die. I stabbed him twice, 3 times, 100 times. Do you think he'll die? Second Fatty Jin continued to question her. Although his words made sense, the third princess was still embarrassed, especially in front of an outsider like the Gold Rock Holy Sun. Jean-Shan, are you lecturing me? I don't dare. Second Fatty Jin's voice was filled with anger as he said, Third princess, I will report to the Crown Prince about everything that happened at the Merry Pavilion today. What was the meaning of this? Shirking responsibility? Second Fatty Jin's plan had failed because of her, this stupid teammate. Second Fatty Jin, do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Wei Kingdom's third princess was completely enraged by Second Fatty Jin's disrespect. Her voice was extremely cold. Third princess, you naturally have the right to kill me. However, honest words are unpleasant to the ear. I still have to say what I have to say. Second Fatty Jin's expression became serious. His fat body bowed towards her. Third princess, with your precious body, please don't interfere with Chu Yang's matters. Also Chu Yang just got 2 Soul Wheel Realm artifacts. Third princess, even if you don't listen to me, you shouldn't act rashly. Otherwise, a fatal disaster will be right in front of you. Finished. Chapter 6:14. Rumble. As soon as Second Fatty Jin left, the place where the Wei Kingdom's third princess and the Gold Rock Saint were at collapse. Second Fatty Jin fled even faster. Damn it! The Wei Kingdom's third princess was furious after being humiliated by Second Fatty Jin repeatedly. Just now, Second Fatty Jin was practically pointing at her nose and calling her a pig. The Gold Rock Saint's expression was also extremely ugly. He had already put away his wine gourd and was no longer in the mood to drink. He was not afraid of a godlike opponent, but a pig-like opponent. Second Fatty Jin's disrespect and humiliation to the third princess were also disrespect and humiliation to him. All his previous actions were the result of his discussion with the Wei Kingdom's third princess. This Chu Yang must die. Otherwise we will really be looked down upon by that damn fatty. The Gold Rock Saint looked in the direction where Chu Yang left and said leisurely. Chu Yang indeed deserved to die, but Second Fatty Jin's words also made sense. Although the third princess was flustered and exasperated, she still said, although Second Fatty Jin was disrespectful to me, what he said is indeed somewhat understandable. This Chu Yang is really too monstrous and too heaven-defying. It will not be easy to kill him. It was not just not easy. In the third princess' mind, Chu Yang had killed the big-winged gold rock bird and killed the person with the array diagram. That kind of method was stunning and even more shocking. How could such a person be killed so easily? It is precisely because this Chu Yang is too monstrous and heaven-defying that we must kill him as soon as possible. Otherwise, when he grows up, I'm afraid no one will be able to stop him. The Gold Rock Saint said coldly, he must die immediately. Otherwise, I will not be at ease. But we can't figure out his strength. Not necessarily, the Gold Rock Saint child said, he's an array master. That's why the domains formed by the array diagrams are weakened by at least 30%. That's why he can treat the domains formed by the array diagrams as if they were the sky, and then overturn the sky to kill people. The third princess agreed. Array masters were all too familiar with the domains of array diagrams and had their own ways to deal with them. That was why Chu Yang was able to flip the sky with a wave of his hand within the domain formed by the array diagram. As for the mountain transforming into a great river, the perfect fusion of the two is indeed extremely shocking. However, against the domain of a soul wheel realm martial artist, it can only be futile. The third princess nodded. Because cultivators at the soul circulation realm had their own domains, they were absolutely supreme existences to those below the soul circulation realm. They were invincible and unshakable. The limit of this Chu Yang's battle prowess is to kill cultivators at the 9th level of the ascending soul realm. He is definitely not a match for cultivators at the soul circulation realm. The Gold Rock Saint child concluded. Thinking of how Chu Yang had obtained 2 soul circulation realm artifacts and array diagrams, he said, Third Princess, I have 3 cultivators at the soul circulation realm on my side, and you have 3 on your side as well. Can't 6 cultivators at the soul circulation realm kill this monstrous genius? The only problem was how to kill Chu Yang so that the 5 Elements sect wouldn't be able to find any evidence against them. However, the Gold Rock Saint child didn't care about that anymore. Chu Yang was too monstrous, and he definitely wouldn't allow Chu Yang to grow. Saint child, an ear-piercing sound rang out. Suddenly, a person rushed in while panting heavily with a panicked expression on his face. He immediately said, "The person who followed Chu Yang has been killed." What? The Gold Rock Saint child was shocked. The person he had sent to follow Chu Yang was a cultivator at the soul circulation realm. Otherwise, how could he let Chu Yang leave the merry pavilion? Regardless of whether it was in the Soul Devourer clan or the 5 Elements sect, a cultivator at the soul circulation realm could at least be an elder or even a peak master. The impact of being killed was huge. In any case, the Gold Rock Saint child was feeling the pinch. Saint child, this is what he left behind. I have escaped without a trace. Seeing the words left behind, the Gold Rock Saint child and the third princess of Wei Kingdom's expressions couldn't help but turn ugly. If they lost Chu Yang's trail, wanting to kill him would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Rumble. Suddenly, the Gold Rock Saint child and the third princess of Wei Kingdom heard a loud sound coming from Jinyuan City. The ground beneath their feet also shook. Not long after, another person rushed in and reported to the third princess of Wei Kingdom, "Princess, we followed Chu Yang. After Chu Yang discovered us, he used the 9 Dragons Bell and the 7 Kills sword to kill us. This is what he left behind. If I am safe, you will have a cloudy sky." Chapter 6:15. If I am safe and sound, you will have a cloudy day. When the Wei Nation's third princess and the Gold Rock Saint saw these words, Chu Yang had already left Gold Origin City and was flying towards the nearest mountain range. This 9 Dragons Bell, 7 Slaughtering Sword, and the array diagram are really good treasures. Chu Yang loved them so much that he couldn't put them down. Using the 9 Dragons Bell to form a protective domain and the array diagram to connect the two, he used the 7 slaughtering sword to break through the Soul Wheel Realm's domain and charged in. The domain formed by the 9 dragons' bell and the array diagram suddenly burst out and enveloped the Soul Wheel Realm cultivators. When their domain was split open and they couldn't withdraw in time to defend, the domain formed by the 9 dragons' bell and the array diagram was actually able to crush the Soul Wheel Realm cultivators like they were eggs. The high and mighty Soul Wheel Realm cultivators were killed by him just like that, clean and efficient to his heart's content. After a while, Chu Yang found a place where the terrain was suitable for setting up arrays. He immediately spent a lot of effort to set up various arrays. Among them, the array that was set up according to the Great Adjudication array was the main array. After that, he started to cultivate. Yeah. At this moment Lil Guai cried out. It had endured for a long time and pointed out all the things that it didn't like about Chu Yang. Little thing, you haven't seen enough. It is too early to judge. After being severely injured by the Judgment Elder, Lil Guai had changed a lot. Now, Chu Yang only allowed it to see and not comment. After Chu Yang dealt with Lil Guai, he said, Lil Guai, Lil Wu, Lil Black, protect me. If there is any danger, wake me up immediately. Immediately after, he took out the black and white dragon rice and swallowed it. The black and white dragon rice was a little long, but it melted in his mouth. After swallowing the entire black and white dragon rice, Chu Yang immediately let out a series of dragon roars. A light dragon and a dark dragon appeared and rushed around him. Idiot martial spirit. Chu Yang directly used the idiot martial spirit. Although he relied on the 9 dragons' bell, 7 slaughtering sword, and the array diagram to kill 2 Soul Wheel Realm cultivators, the consumption was huge. Using 3 artifacts at the same time could almost drain him. In addition, he had set up many arrays, be it essence, chi, or spirit, and so he directly used the idiot martial spirit. Everything in his body under the guidance of the idiot martial spirit. How carefree! Little 5 was extremely envious. Who could cultivate like this? It was extremely envious. Seeing this scene, Little 6 was also envious. He's carefree, so he's the boss. Lil, martial spirit was speechless. Lil, yeah. Little Guai was still joining in on the fun. The 3 things were in full swing, and at this moment, light and darkness were already fighting in Chu Yang's body. Suddenly, Chu Yang's entire body emitted a bright radiance. It illuminated the entire world. The radiance was boundless. But it immediately dimmed down. His entire body turned pitch black like ink. It seemed as if he had turned into a black hole, and was devouring the surrounding light. Light and dark alternated with each other. After a day had passed, the alternation of light and darkness became regular. It was like the cycle of day and night. The big sun and the bright moon appeared in Chu Yang's body. They rose and fell along with the alternation of day and night. He cultivated the innate light physique and dark physique so quickly. It is really infuriating. Lil 5 was just complaining. To Chu Yang, this was not something to be surprised about. 5th brother, look on the bright side. He is the boss. Nothing can be done. Chapter 6:16. Chu Yang's dantian was like an ocean, and his body was surrounded by a coastline. The luster of his body was clearly visible, like a receding tide, retreating into the ocean and converging at his dantian. In just a short while, Chu Yang had almost turned into a dried corpse. At the same time, his life force had completely disappeared. Chu Yang's essence, chi, spirit, soul, and soul had all converged at the center of his dantian. His true origin had already converged there. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. These 9 types of true origin conflicted with each other, and were very difficult to control. However, because Chu Yang had the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit, his body was like a heaven and earth. The 9 types of true origin existed in his body, as if they existed in heaven and earth. There was no conflict, and he could control them as if they were his arms. At this moment, under the control of the full martial spirit, Chu Yang's body was like the heaven and earth had been destroyed, and everything was returning to chaos. After the 9 types of true origin completely converged at the center of his dantian, it became even more misty and chaotic. The changes were still intensifying. The genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit had also entered, and then all of Chu Yang's martial spirits, the saber sword martial spirit, and the flood dragon martial spirit had all entered. The sword heart heavenly fire, the saber crystal earth water, the 5 elements cycle heaven ring, the 5 elements anti-sky star, the universal manifestation apparatus, the 9 dragons bell, the 7 killing sword, and the formation diagram. Even Chu Yang's path to heaven, and the spiritual world opened up by the innate acupoints, all of these, and everything related to Chu Yang, were all thrown into the misty chaos. In an instant, the misty chaos changed again. There was no heaven, no earth, no space, no time, and nothing. There was only a primordial chaos, a muddle-headed chaos. Little Five, Little Black, and Little Guai couldn't help but be stunned when they saw the primordial chaos. When their senses descended into the ball of primordial chaos, they seemed to be completely dazed and in chaos. After they broke free, Little Black shouted strangely, "Is there no justice?" The primordial chaos actually appeared. Little Black couldn't stand the stimulation. Chu Yang's destiny twin martial spirits were simply too powerful. Such a change was easily triggered. Ah, what a great fortune! Little Five looked like he was about to drool. If I go in, my soul will walk around in the primordial chaos. When I come back to life, I'll definitely be a chaos creature. The so-called boss will, at most, be an incomplete chaos creature. Little Five laughed sinisterly. When the time comes, I might be able to beat him up. Whoosh! Just as Little Five was grinning sinisterly, Blackie suddenly heard that Chu Yang was evolving from an imperfect connate lifeform into a chaos lifeform. With a whoosh, it dove in. "Little Six, you bastard, Little Black, you turtle egg," Little Five cursed loudly. He used all of Little Black's names to scold them. In the end, he instructed Little Guai, "Little Guai, protect us. I'm going, ha ha." Yeah. In an instant, Xiao Guai was the only one left. It cried out incessantly, then sat down on the ground in frustration and sighed. It couldn't enter. Whoosh! A gale suddenly rose and became even more violent. First, a huge whirlpool formed around Chu Yang. Then, the void there seemed to collapse as it crazily swallowed the vitality of heaven and earth. In an instant, the vital energy within a radius of 100 miles started to move strangely. It crazily converged towards Chu Yang, and formed countless gales. Sand and stones flew, and trees were snapped. Some were even uprooted. The scene was shocking. Yeah. Such a big movement would definitely be noticed immediately, but when the time came, there would definitely be people coming to investigate. Chapter 6:17. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Chu Yang still didn't show any signs of movement. He was still crazily devouring the origin energy of heaven and earth. Whoosh! From the forest in the distance, a 5-colored light flew over and landed beside Chu Yang. It started to cry out. Who else could it be if it wasn't Xiao Guai? Right now, its transparent eyes were filled with anxiety. It cried out and complained about why Chu Yang hadn't woken up yet. Others were already at his doorstep. In these 7 days, due to the abnormal movement of the origin energy, many people noticed this place and came to investigate. They were either blocked by Chu Yang's array or Xiao Guai's array. Among them, there were some who were repelled by Xiao Guai. However, it couldn't kill them. These people were repelled by it. When they came again, they brought many people with them. It was very difficult for it to deal with them. Gradually, the news that there was a mystical little beast guarding a spiritual mountain spread out. As a result, more and more people came to investigate the situation. Xiao Guai couldn't attend to one thing and lost sight of another. Among them, there were many who were proficient in arrays. After it was mobilized, these people quickly found Xu Yang's location. Fortunately, it returned in time. The opponents didn't want to be entangled with Xiao Guai. After confirming that it was Chu Yang, they immediately retreated. After another half a day, which was now, when Xiao Guai came back, it saw that Chu Yang still didn't show any signs of waking up. It couldn't help but feel anxious. It also sensed the situation in Chu Yang's body once again. It was really like the primordial chaos, the more chaotic it was. In such a situation, when 4 soul reincarnation realm martial artists approached, Xiao Guai started to panic. It seemed that Chu Yang could sense its panic. Finally, there was a change in his body. Boom! From the primordial chaos in Chu Yang's dantian, there seemed to be a koan fish jumping out of the North Sea and turning into a koan pung. The genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit returned from the primordial chaos. After that, the saber sword martial spirit, the flood dragon martial spirit, the path to heaven, the spiritual world of the Xiantian acupoints, the universal manifestation of the universe, the 5 elements heaven rotating ring, the pentagram reverse star, the 9 dragon bell, the 7 killing sword, and the array diagram all returned. As soon as Chu Yang's soul and consciousness returned to his body, the life essence he gathered in the primordial chaos returned as well. His flesh and blood recovered instantly, releasing a dazzling luster. His glabella glowed brightly. His entire body was quickly shrouded in a misty haze. Then, rolling black gas gushed out from his body and drowned him in an instant, quickly forming a large black cocoon. These were the impurities that were expelled when his flesh and blood transformed and his constitution evolved. Right now, Chu Yang's constitution was transforming from that of a connate lifeform to that of a chaos lifeform. In just a moment, the black cocoon became bigger and bigger, quickly becoming a huge black rock. In the end, it almost turned into the shape of a small mountain. The evolution was very intense. Xiao! 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 Little Guai rose into the air. Lightning flickered on its little claws as they sizzled. Soon after, rumbling thunder was emitted from that spot. Its entire body was covered by lightning. One could vaguely see its little claws pointing at the 4 middle-aged men as a warning. Xiao! Xiao! Don't come near me. Otherwise, I won't be polite. This little bastard. According to the information I gave you a few days ago, it was only in the 6th level of the Ascending Soul Realm. Now, it's almost in the 9th level of the Ascending Soul Realm. Chapter 6:18. Don't lose sight of the big picture. It's just a little beast. So what if it's heaven-defying? That's right. It looks extraordinary, but it's not even as ferocious as a dog. Cut the crap. The 4 of us will envelop it with our domains and crush it like 4 huge hammers. No matter if it's the little beast or that evildoer Chu, they will all die. Yeah. Little Guai was enraged. However, it wasn't scary at all. It didn't look ferocious at all. If a woman saw it, she would probably die from its cuteness. Luckily, it was holding a blade in its paw. The thunder and lightning on its little claws became even more explosive. It was as if there was thunder in the sky. Rumbling sounds kept coming out, so much so that the little claws were almost unable to withstand the violent power of the thunder and lightning, and were charred black. If you guys come any closer, I will attack. That was what it meant. Fools. The 4 soul reincarnation realm experts were all wearing masks. One of them snorted and immediately roared, "Attack!" Buzz, buzz. Buzzing sounds rang out continuously. 4 domains enveloped Little Guai and Chu Yang from 4 different directions. 4 light barriers instantly enveloped Little Guai and Chu Yang and began to press down. Rumble! As Lil Guai cried out, it finally unleashed the power of lightning in its hands. A shocking bolt of lightning tore through the void, causing the sky and earth to shake. However, when it struck the domain, it was as if it had struck the void and was completely ineffective. Little Guai's lightning bolt was like a furious strike from a heavenly skill. The lightning glow was instantly transmitted and disintegrated, causing the domain to instantly flash with lightning. However, that was all. Little Guai's 5 elements thunderous palm couldn't do anything to the domain that was crushing down. The 4 domains were like rolling boulders and 4 mountains. They pressed down and caused the earth to tremble. Yeah. Little Guai threw out lightning bolts crazily. Before the domain arrived, it was already exhausted. It sat on the ground and panted heavily. It looked like it couldn't do it anymore. There were many eyes watching this scene. When they saw Little Guai's appearance, they couldn't help but laugh. Did it think that it was playing a game? If it couldn't do it, it would let you go. Among them, there were 2 pairs of eyes that were especially sharp. They watched every scene very carefully. They were monitoring the entire process, and at the same time, they were sending back the news as soon as possible. Boom! The 4 domains came crashing down, and a large bell rushed out on its own, immediately ringing incessantly. The 4 domains were like 4 sledgehammers that slammed into the bell from all sides. The bell was distorted and was about to be broken. However, a loud dragon roar suddenly came from the bell, and a primal chaos aura erupted from it. The bell shook violently, and 9 dragons roared in unison, stabilizing it. What? When did the 9-dragon bell become so powerful? What exactly did Chu Yang do to this bell? It's a treasure of the soul reincarnation realm. It shouldn't be able to withstand the pressure from the 4 of us. The chaos above, what is that? The 4 people's domains were 4 hammers, while the 9-dragon bell was more like a piece of iron ore. If the 4 hammers smashed it down, it would definitely shatter into pieces, but the result was not so. Therefore, these 4 masked men at the soul reincarnation realm were extremely shocked. Clang, clang, clang. The 7 slaughter sword also rushed out, shocking the 4 of them. When the 7 slaughter sword appeared, it was not blood-red, but misty and chaotic. The blood-red color on the sword had completely disappeared, as if a demon had put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. However, its strength had also increased by a level. Swoosh! A formation diagram flew out from behind, protecting Lil Guai. It was also misty and chaotic, emitting a mysterious aura. It also had incomparable spirituality. As soon as it appeared, it entered the formation that Chu Yang had set up and took charge of it. What? When the 4 of them felt the aura of the 3, their eyelids suddenly twitched, and they were extremely shocked. The 9-dragon bell, 7 slaughter sword, and the formation diagram are at least mid-tier soul reincarnation realm artifacts. Moreover, the 3 of them are filled with spirituality, and can still grow further. The 4 of them were horrified. They understood the 3 of them very well, but in just a short period of time, Chu Yang had actually caused them to undergo such a transformation. It was extremely difficult to refine a soul reincarnation realm artifact. After it was refined, it was even more difficult to increase its rank. Not to mention, it was filled with spirituality, as if it had a life of its own and could continue to evolve. How was this possible? How did Chu Yang do it? Even if he was at the soul reincarnation realm, or even the spirit realm, which was comparable to a sect master, he still wouldn't be able to do it. However, all of this actually happened. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.